Here we go.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Pete Sheppard Show here live from the Naples Wealth Planning Studio on the Riptide Media Network. It is indeed Friday, April 19th. Good morning, everybody. Hope your day is off to a great start wherever you may be around this great country of ours in the U.S. of A., great state of Florida, and, of course, to everybody around the world tuning in to this marvelous, wonderful program. Oh, gigantic show lined up for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is indeed. I am Pete Sheppard. You can call or text at 727-858-6650. Now, on the Riptide Media Network video platform, you can follow me on Twitter right now, Twitter at PShep326, on my Facebook page, and also the Broad Street South Facebook and YouTube pages, on Spotify, Rumble, LinkedIn, and also on Sports Radio 102.9. Man, oh man, huge show lined up for you today. We got a lot to get to. NFL draft news. You're going to hear from Patriots alleged GM Elliott Wolf, Washington general manager Adam Peters. We got NBA playoff action concluding tonight. The play-in stuff with mega stars not playing. You will not see Jimmy Butler tonight in Miami against Chicago, and you will not see Zion Williamson tonight in New Orleans when they take on Sacramento. We have the NHL playoffs. Everything is finally set. Of all the dates and times set up as well. We'll do an MLB recap from yesterday and last night. Also, yesterday at Fenway Park in the afternoon, they played a game against Cleveland. It was 46 degrees. A freezing rain coming down. Everybody looked miserable. Red Sox finished 3-7 on their homestand, which included games against Baltimore, where they got swept, Anaheim, where they did win a couple, and then Cleveland, which took 3 out of 4. 3-7. 0-7, the Red Sox were in the 7 losses of when they made an error. They went 3-0 when they didn't make an error, 0-7 when they did. Awful. Absolutely awful. So we have that. Again, all the NHL news to tell you about. And guest today, Mick Colagio at 8:30. We're going to break down the entire Stanley Cup playoffs. Some really good matchups in the first round. Getting out of the first round is the most difficult. It doesn't really matter where you're seated or who you play. Very difficult. And now at 5 a.m., the man, Jeff Tifo DeForest, is going to join me. And, of course, executive producer and host, Angel Martinez. And it'll be, and don't forget, coming up on Monday, it'll be Martinez and Tifo Unscripted. That's coming up. Angel and Tifo Unscripted coming up on Monday from 10 to noon. So he'll join me for half an hour. And then my man, Glenn Ordway, recently inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Big ceremony in his honor coming up in June, which I'll be flying up to participate in. And he'll be joining me at 9:30 today, and we'll get his perspective on the NBA playoffs and see if he has any opinions about what is going on with the Patriots as far as this Robert Kraft report about him bad-mouthing Belichick to the Atlanta Falcons and Arthur Blank. So with all that being said, we say good morning to the one and only Angel Martinez. Good morning, Angel. Oh, sorry. Did I catch you off guard?
Oh, I was just making sure that we put the stuff out there and make sure the radio comes up. All the good fun stuff. It's always some trickery that's got to go on in the morning to make sure everything is good. But good morning, Pete. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Now I've got to make sure that everything is pinned right on my end. Oh, okay. Yes, there we go. Yes, I am fantastic. I'm looking forward to the show today. It's going to be, we got a little bit of everything, boy. We got a little bit of everything. NHL postseason is now set. NBA playoffs tonight with a bunch of stars missing. I mean, it's really unbelievable. No Jimmy Butler tonight. No Zion Williamson tonight in the playing games. And then the postseason is going to start. The real postseason is going to start on Saturday for some in the NBA and Sunday in the others. Same thing in the National Hockey League. It is going to be interesting. And I'm sure most teams that play in the same stadium, that have a hockey and basketball team that play in the same stadium, like they do in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and some other places. Now, the Flyers aren't in it, but I can tell you this. You know, Angel, every arena has a bull gang, which is the people that switch the ice back to basketball and then basketball back to ice.
Yeah.
The Bruins play at 8:00 on Saturday night against Toronto. So figure, yada, yada, the game gets over at 10:30. By the time you're looking probably at 11 o'clock. They got to get that thing ready for morning shoot around because the Celtics have the early game on Sunday at 1 p.m., which means the floor has got to be down probably by 8 in the morning. And I forget, and Mick Colagio would probably know when he joins us. So I know in most arenas, I forget if it takes more time to change from hockey to basketball or back from basketball to hockey. I can't remember what it is, but I do know it is an incredible process that you've seen sped up probably in your life many times. It's pretty cool to watch. For those guys work their asses off, man. That is a short turnaround. That really, I guarantee, and I remember Fridays after Thanksgiving many times for many years had to cover when I was covering the Bruins and the Celtics and working 7 days a week and a gazillion hours like you are right now, Angel. But I remember the Bruins would play in the morning and the Celtics would play at night. They'd have to do it within a few, the Bruins would get off. They had to change it right over for the Celtics at night. It was crazy.
I believe so. I'm almost certain it's harder to go from hockey to basketball because of the ice factor.
Yeah, you got to put more stuff down to layer before the court.
Because the temperature from the ice compared to the floor, because there's been, I think it was one time in Philly where the everything was not completely drained. It should have been for the Flyers conversion over to Sixers, and there was moisture still on the floor, and they were having a problem with it. So I'm almost certain it's from hockey to basketball where it's harder to make the transition.
Well, let me tell you something. I remember the Celtics playing Houston one night, and Ralph Sampson went up, and I thought he broke his back. Seriously thought he broke his back. He went up. There was so much condensation on the floor, they had to cancel the game. They had to stop it. And that was the old Garden. And I mean, it was scary, the amount of water that was seeping through. It was a hot late May, really hot day in Boston. And I'd seen playoff games, Angel, there, where I remember one series against the Canadians where they had to stop the game. There was so much fog because it was so hot. You couldn't see anything. And they had to have both benches empty and skate around the ice to create like a whirl, almost like suction. And that happened. They had to do that for like 10 minutes. And then finally they got the game going again. So I've seen some crazy things happen in these arenas, particularly in May and June. But it's just, the quirky scheduling, and I'm not sure it's going to affect the Knicks and the Rangers at all. I'm sure it will at some point. But, man, to play 8 o'clock at night and then have in one building and have the hockey go to basketball by early in the morning the next day, that's a long night for those guys, and they do a terrific job at it.
They do. But it is a long process. And, again, I've seen it in Philly. It's the same way, too, like when you have – it's rare when it happens, but I do have too when they have the concerts set up inside the arenas, and then it's the same way they know that they have to convert the floor over because of the next night or following night playing basketball or whichever one. But it's a workhouse crew, that's for sure. It's just like no different when it comes to football, but when it comes to hockey, basketball, that conversion, it's absolutely freaking bananas. And we got our first comment up there on the screen today.
Oh, Chara's mom. Happy Friday, gentlemen. Yes, exactly. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And I'm being told everything sounds okay, so that's good.
That is
good. That's good. There's some NFL news to get to today as well. Damian Woody on First Take, which I'm trying to find the cut. He just went off on the Falcons yesterday, and how Bill Belichick was not in their top three. Like, what are we doing? He's like, a collaboration. He's like, what the hell are we doing? A collaboration. And it's about winning championships, and somehow, some way. And my good friend Glenn Ordway, who's coming up at the bottom of the hour, or at 9:30, I should say, of the final hour. He's got close ties to what's going on, and I want to see how much stock he puts into the story. Like I said, there's, the Don Van Natta and Seth Wickersham, Jeremy Fowler. Anytime Seth Wickersham is attached to the Patriots, I throw up a big red alert in the back. My Star Trek red alert goes off because I don't know how much stock I put into it, to be honest with you. I really find it hard to believe. And if it is true that Robert Kraft badmouthed Belichick to Arthur Blank, I mean, after everything he has done for that organization, that's a bad look for him. If all of that, and this just, anonymous phone calls, anonymous tips, that another thing that was in the story. I don't know what to believe. The only part of it, like I said, Angel, that I might believe is the part where if he wanted, total autonomy, I wanted to be the GM also, and then the Falcons didn't want that. So, but to not be considered in your top three, there's something's not right there. And God bless Ray Morris. Good job. I mean, God bless him in that organization. But we'll see. We will.
I think to me, Belichick, he never. Well, I can't say he did get under my skin only because obviously for the multiple Super Bowl titles. But not in a bad way. I'll say that because it's competitive. We were talking off air before the show, but it's a competitive nature, right? Because he knows he had his goal, and the problem was what we saw. And you guys in New England got to see someone completely different. But every time we saw him, it was just that straight face, like I'm here to win. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not amusing people. And it was just, that's what, like, it would just drive us crazy and feel like, how has this guy not showed any kind of emotions? You've now won your third freaking stinking Super Bowl, and it's still not good enough. In the meantime, we were trying to win one at a time.
Well, look, I mean, like I said, I was lucky enough. So was Glenn and our, Fred Smirlis and Steve Diassi. We were with him for over a decade, every Monday, sometimes Sunday night, but every Monday for, like 40 minutes. So we got to pick his brain a lot more, and he was much more comfortable with us, and he was much more comfortable with Freddie and Steve because they were great players and by their own right in the NFL. So he knows that they know the intricacies of the game and all that stuff. But he did that show Saturday night with Scott Zolak as well, and was very cordial and funny at times and humble. It just after games, his philosophy is, I'm not doing the media's job. You want to talk football? We'll talk football. And I know he came off as a curmudgeon much of the time. I get it. I understand that. But, Nick Saban did as well. And some other coaches just have that way. But other times, though, where Bill, I mean, really, I think it was more like 50-50. And sometimes he was more, I don't know, after losses, he would tell you more than after wins sometimes. So it's just, it's to each his own. What do you think of him? But I think he's going to do tremendous on ESPN with the Pat McAfee coming up on the draft show. I really do. I think he's going to be great.
I think so too. I think we might see that small different side once again. I keep using you guys as New England, but I want to see, because as he mentioned in a clip you talked about yesterday when he said that the draft is like a puzzle. I want to see how he breaks it down, if he does break it down. And how it's made sense for him for many, many years, because none of us, I mean, New England, you had New England, Dallas, basically who dominated the draft for many seasons, I want to say maybe 10 years in a row, if that. But I want to see how it's going to work for him on draft night. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that absolutely is. All right, we'll get to some NFL news in a second. We'll hear from Elliott Wolf, the de facto Patriots GM, and also Washington Commanders GM, Adam Peters. We will hear from them, but I do want to set the tone here with the NHL and give you all the postseason matchups. Finally, they are complete after last night's regular season finale. So here's what it's looking like in the NHL. In the Eastern Conference, Florida's the 1 seed. They take on the number 1 wild card team, Tampa Bay Lightning, in this matchup. And game 1 is at 12:30 at the Panthers, coming up on Sunday. Today's Friday, right? Yes. Coming up on the 21st. So that's game 1 there. Meanwhile, the Bruins, the 2 seed in the Atlantic, take on the 3 seed in the Atlantic. The Maple Leafs, that will begin. Oh, by the way, the other one's on ESPN. The Lightning and Panthers are on ESPN. The Bruins and Maple Leafs start in Boston at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. They will be on TBS and True TV. Game 1 there. The Rangers and the Washington Capitals will start also on Sunday at 3 o'clock on ESPN. And the Hurricanes and the Islanders, game 1 will be tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock on TBS. Getting all choked up, Angel. The Western Conference playoff schedule looks like this. Finally, Dallas will take on the Vegas Golden Knights. There are people that think Vegas tanked it last night and losing to Anaheim 4-1. Whatever. You get the number 1 seed now. You get the Dallas Stars. So that will take place in Dallas. Game 1 is scheduled for the 22nd. So that's not until Monday. They don't start till Monday at 9:30 on ESPN. A lot of extra days rest there. Winnipeg and Colorado will go at it. Game 1 of that series begins on Sunday at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. And Vancouver and Nashville, game 1 also on Sunday on ESPN. 10 o'clock start, baby. 10 o'clock start. Of course, 7 o'clock out there, but 10 o'clock here. Predators and the Canucks. And then finally, the Edmonton Oilers and the LA Kings. It's the 3rd year they've played in a row. That begins also on the 22nd, which is Monday, 10 o'clock on ESPN2. There you have it. There are all your playoff matchups. Late games, some of them 10 o'clock on ESPN2. And a lot of those nights you're going to be competing with NBA playoff schedule as well. So interesting stuff there, Angel. So I'm looking forward to it. There is nothing better in sports than the Stanley Cup playoffs. It doesn't matter the seeding. It is just it's phenomenal. There's nothing like it. I love it.
Yeah, it's a whole different beast for sure. And it's quick. It comes, it seems like forever. And then it comes and just goes. It's too damn fast.
Yeah, except the schedule is it's so long because rink availability and all that stuff, and it's going to be it could be the middle of June before this is over.
Yeah, and then
same with basketball too.
That's true. And then before you know it, the season starts all over again. It's just that fast. But
yeah,
but I'm wondering. You probably have the clip for later on. But Ryan Smith, the new Utah NHL owner,
yes,
sat down with Booch for about 2 minutes and talked about the new ownership.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday with Rick Horror a little bit. And I have a couple of cuts coming up about that in just a little bit. But I do want to get NFL draft is now 6 days away. 6 days away. So again, I want to thank, as always, all our great sound. For the best articles and audio, there's only one source that provides everything you need 365 days a year to satisfy your sports crave. It's Total Sports Prep. The staff combs through the best articles and audio so you don't have to. The sports and non-sports kicker stories will leave you laughing all day long. To get your free trial of Total Sports Prep, contact them at info@sportsbroadcastingcoach.com. You can see it. Angels put it up on the screen as well. info@sportsbroadcastingcoach.com. Total Sports Prep, the name says it all. All right. A couple of GMs were available for commentary yesterday. Elliot Wolf, the de facto GM in New England, says they open for business.
Yeah, so ongoing. We're open to anything, moving up, moving down. We're open for business in the first round and in every round. We have some holes we feel like we need to fill in the draft, and we're a draft and develop team. The more picks we have, the better. But if there's an opportunity to move up and strike, if the board kind of recommends it, then we won't be afraid to pull the trigger on that either.
Yeah, that is, it's really, really interesting stuff. It's been a big debate, not only around New England, but around nationally. The guys all over the place on ESPN and NFL Network are going back and forth, trying to get into the minds of what is going on, because the Patriots so many years have traded that number one pick down. But now when you get a chance to get a top 3 quarterback, unless they feel that they can, remember that mock draft we talked about earlier this week with Mel Kiper Jr.? He had that trade with the Chargers, with Minnesota, remember? And then Minnesota had Minnesota taking J.J. McCarthy. Now, it's possible that kind of a deal could get done with the Patriots if indeed Drake May isn't their guy, and to say somebody like Michael Penix Jr. is, and he's available at 11, maybe that is their line of thinking, which I would not be upset with that, because I think Michael Penix Jr. is going to be the best quarterback in this draft. I know he's got he's been with the injuries on shoulders and ACLs, and I get it, but he was good to go at the combine. He had a great combine. Not that I put a lot of stock in that, but just the fact that from a physical standpoint, I think he's going to be the best quarterback in the draft. Yeah, I believe that. With all due respect to Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels too. I mean, I think those two are both going to be very good. I think Drake May is going to be very good. But we say this every year, and it ends up being the top 5 quarterbacks. 2 end up being like really good, and the other 3 are or depending on what organization drafts them. So it is going to be really interesting. Meanwhile, Patriots GM Elliott Wolf says thinks the Patriots roster can support a rookie quarterback.
I read a lot of that storyline. I'm not really sure what that means. We have a solid offensive line. We re-signed Mike Onwenu. We have David Andrews coming back. We have 3 rookies that we drafted last year that are developing. We signed Okorafor from the Steelers. Hunter Henry, I mean, a good running game, a solid foundation, and a solid system in place with Coach Van Pelt on the offense. So I definitely feel like we can support.
Okay. Sounds good. I don't think he's wrong. I don't think he's wrong. But in situations like this, it always comes down to the quarterback. Because if an offensive line is blocking for over 4 seconds and you can't get rid of the ball or can't do reads, it all of a sudden and you get sacked, all of a sudden it's the offensive line's fault. Well, you had more than enough time. It's all about, can you make the reads? One more cut from Angel from Elliott Wolf says the Patriots have had conversations with other teams about trades and why.
You're talking about trading for a receiver? Yeah. We've had conversations with teams about different scenarios, not just at receiver, but at other positions. So that's definitely something that we'd be open to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of different directions that my boys could go in. A lot of different directions. We shall see. I will not claim to know anything because I have no idea. Nobody does. Anybody who says they know what's going on, not just with them, but with anybody that knows, especially last second, you never know who might come in with a big offer or some kind of a big trade for any of these teams. You just don't know. That's the beauty of the draft. So we'll wait and see. Over in the NFC, Washington general manager Adam Peters doesn't know who they're drafting, but says they're real close.
Yeah, we're real close. There's still a few more things in the process we have to do. And as you guys may be getting, I'm pretty process-driven, process-oriented. So we have to debrief on our 30 visits with the whole staff, talk about everybody there. That we haven't done that yet. And then later tonight we have a medical meeting as well to go over all the medicals in the combine and get that information as well and just ask pointed questions if there are any. On certain players if we have some questions on that. So we have a few more things. DQ and I will huddle up and probably have an answer really sometime next week. Now, I will say this also, you don't really need to make a decision until you need to make a decision. So there's no rush with that, but I think we'll have a pretty good idea what we're doing early next week.
Write that down, Angel. You don't need to make a decision until you need to make a decision.
Got it.
Okay, got that.
Yep, and I'll put in a clip later. Put that.
Another fortune cookie message for everybody. Meanwhile, how about this? Adam Peters, the GM of Washington, you just heard, asked if he had a favorite QB before he took the job.
Even took this job at the end of this college football season. Did you have a quarterback that you liked the most? And if so, has that changed?
That's a great question. No, because before I took this job, we weren't really scouting quarterbacks, especially top of the draft quarterbacks, really hard because we had Brock Purdy. I was with San Francisco, as you know, Tom, and so we weren't. In our job and what Lance's job will be, you have to really prioritize your time. And there's a lot of things that you have to do besides just college draft. There's free agency, there's managing people, there's a lot of different things. So I tried to, over my, I think, 7 years there, I learned that I need to focus my energy on things that will be great for the team. And so spending a ton of time on the first round quarterbacks wasn't something that I did. I really wish I would have done that a little bit more. Didn't know that this was going to happen, but so really didn't dig into this group of guys as much as I would have liked to. I knew who they were. I'd watched them, but I hadn't done the full workup and evaluation like I had done at some other positions. So really came in with a clean slate and was extremely impressed with a lot of the quarterbacks in this class.
All right, and last one, Adam Peters says that the Commanders, and again, this is from the Commanders webpage, Commanders will not trade the number 2 pick.
We feel great about staying at number 2. I don't see a whole lot of scenarios where we trade down, to be honest with you. Yeah, we feel great about sticking there.
Okay, I believe him.
Sure.
That part I believe, and I do think it'll be Jaden Daniels that is there, and that Caleb will go to the Bears, and then he will go to Washington. And the Michael Penix Jr. thing, what I was talking about, I mean, he's got a lengthy injury list here. 2 ACL tears in his right knee that ended his seasons in 2020 and 2018, if I remember. Injuries to both his non-throwing and throwing shoulders. I get it. But last year, he was awesome. He got... with the independent approval from renowned knee and shoulder specialist, Dr. Neil Elatrache, or Elatrache, I don't know how to say his name. Penix followed that up with explosiveness at his pro day with 40 times in the 4.5s, along with 36.5-inch vertical. Scouts would like to see him use those athletic traits more. Multiple teams say the medical realities are something teams will have to monitor and have a plan for, but likely won't sink his draft stock. And look, 4,903 yards last year, 36 touchdown passes. For me, he is going to be the best quarterback in this draft. I'm saying it for the record. That is my opinion. He's going to be the best one in the draft. Could be way off, but he's healthy right now. He's healthy. I can only go by that. I can't go on the past. He is healthy right now. I think whoever gets him, as I told Mia O'Brien the other day, I think we'll get the steal of the draft. I love this guy. I think he's absolutely fantastic. So we'll see. Any particular quarterback you like, Angel, before we go to break? I mean, that you think is a can't miss? Whether it's Williams or Jaden Daniels, the J.J. McCarthy thing, it's gaining traction. But, what do you think is a can't miss?
It is, and I think with Daniels, I'm not sold on how good he's going to be in the NFL. But I mean, he could be that dark horse that no one saw. I think Michael Penix Jr., like you said, he's not getting, I think, enough eyeballs on him, and only because everybody's focused upon the injury. And it's happened before. We've seen guys go late in the draft or late in the rounds in order to be picked up, but I like to see Michael Penix Jr., what stock he has coming up on the draft. And J.J. McCarthy, who knows? It could be good. It could also be a bigger bust. But I think I'm on board with you with Michael Penix Jr. I really want to see where this kid's going to end up at.
And Jaden Daniels, I mean, I think he's a can't miss also. Caleb, I can't get that vision out of my head what Caleb Williams got when they lost to UCLA, and he went into the stands and cried. I don't know. That image sticks with me because it wasn't his fault that USC's defense was pathetic. I mean, one of the worst I've ever seen. and the fact that he had to put up 50 points for them to win all the time. But Jaden Daniels, he's 6'4", 210. This is not some scrawny little guy. Maybe he can bulk up a little bit, obviously, from 210 at 6'4". 40 touchdowns and 4 picks and 3,812 yards. That's a pretty good season. All right, my man, a little bit late, but we're going to take a quick break here. A 4-minute break, if you will. Because that's what we do. Just do 4-minute breaks here on the Pete Sheppard Show. When we come back, we will get into the NBA playoff scenario as well for tonight. The play-ins finally end with Chicago, with Miami, Sacramento, and New Orleans. We'll talk about that and do an MLB rundown as well. All part of the Pete Sheppard Show here live at the Naples Wealth Planning Studio on the Riptide Media Network.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Pete Sheppard Show. It's Friday. We're shouting out loud about sports, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Doesn't really matter. We're just here to entertain and provide a service, although I don't know what that is. Whatever it is, make it up. I'm sure Angel can provide it. I know I can't. Welcome back to the Pete Sheppard Show here, live from the Naples Wealth Planning Studio on the Riptide Media Network. Oh, Angel, it's Friday already. We made it through another week here, another progressive week here on the Riptide Media Network. And hats off to you, my friend, in so many different directions. Absolutely. I say it every day, but people have no idea how what you do behind the scenes is beyond amazing. And we are so happy and appreciate you here. Thank goodness for that.
I try. It's the best thing I can say.
Stop saying that. You do. Others have tried. That is why you fail. You got my text message, right? I'm gonna. Okay, but before that, this is the update from CBS Sports yesterday on Jimmy Butler and why he will not be playing anytime soon.
Coming out of the NBA, bad when it comes to Miami Heat, because Jimmy Butler is expected to miss multiple weeks with what is feared to be an MCL injury in his right knee. That is according to multiple reports. Butler was injured last night during the first quarter of their loss to the 76ers in the play-in game. He stayed in the game, but you could clearly tell he was hampered by that injury. If it is, in fact, an MCL injury and he's out multiple weeks, that means he will miss Miami's winner-go-home play-in game on Friday against the Bulls, and likely would miss any time after that if the Heat are able to win.
Yeah, again, he got hurt in the first quarter, toughed it out, played through it, finished with 19 points, was just 5 of 18 shooting. There's no question. So now he's out tonight. So Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo are going to have to come up with big games tonight to beat the Chicago Bulls. I also read some story that said that Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler got into it on the team bus the other night after the game. Butler was unhappy that Tyler Hero shot poorly, 9 for 27 from the field. And apparently Hero took a swing at Jimmy Butler and missed, and Butler yelled out, "Yeah, now you're 9 for 28.
Oh, good Lord.
So, right now that line is interesting. I think I like the Bull. I have this feeling it's not the Heat style to pack it in,
right?
But I think they might pack it in tonight. I got a feeling the Bulls are going to win this one. I really do. Right now, Miami's a 1.5 point favorite, even with Butler being out. The line is 205.5, the total. So that is going to be really, really interesting tonight for Billy Donovan's squad. With DeMar DeRozan and White, Kobe White has been unbelievable. 42 points the other night, a career best. So I think the Bulls are going to pull the upset, a mini upset tonight against Miami, and that'll be the 8-1 matchup. Will be the Bulls against the Celtics. And I'm not just saying that because the Heat have had the Celtics number the last couple of years. I understand that, but I wouldn't even, without Jimmy Butler and the Celtics, who swept the season series against Miami anyway. Not that that means anything come playoff time, but it's going to be. I think the Heat are going to. I don't think the Heat would have matched up well with this Celtics team at all. And without Jimmy Butler, forget about it. So even if they do win tonight, if Celtics should be able to win that series in 5 at the most. With the Bulls, too, they've had great success against the Bulls this year. But we'll see. First things first, I like the Bulls tonight.
Yeah.
Who's on the text line?
Putting
that's you. Okay, that's you. That's you sending out a message to everybody on the text line at 727-858-6650. Don't forget, watch us on the video platform as well. The Riptide Media video platform is awesome. You can follow me on X, Twitter at pshep326, my Facebook page, the Broad Street South Facebook and YouTube pages, Spotify, Rumble, LinkedIn, and also on Sports Radio 102.9. Now, that being said, and then the other matchup tonight is Sacramento and New Orleans. And New Orleans is a 1.5 point underdog at home. See, I like both road teams tonight. I like Sacramento minus 1.5. The total is 210. No Zion Williamson. I think that's going to be a tough draw. Sacramento, I think, is going to be able to win that game. We'll get into a little bit more on that a little bit later on. I mean, he had 40 points and 11 rebounds before he went down Zion the other night. So that's just huge. He was 17 of 27 against the Lakers and played in a career high 70 games this year. And they win. I think they're 7-5 without him. So they have.
I think you're right.
Without him, I think they're 7-5 without him. But as far as the Kings, they lost all 5 regular season meetings with New Orleans this year. 4 of the 5 contests were decided by double digits, including a 129-93 beatdown in New Orleans on November 20th and a 133-100 romp in Sacramento on January 7th. So the Pelicans also beat the Kings by 10 during the in-season tournament quarters. Sacramento says, De'Aaron Fox, a rising, awesome star, says we're 0-5 against that team, and at some point you have to let it hang, and you got to go beat a team that's beaten you. So that is interesting, and I'm you know what? I still like Sacramento tonight. 0-5 against them this year, but this is where it all counts, and they don't have their best player on the floor, Zion Williamson. So I'll go with both road teams tonight. We'll see. Meanwhile, coming up this weekend, the Knicks and the 76ers in the 2-7 matchup. And if, Angel, we could put this up on Get Up yesterday, Tim Legler had a great take here. We talked about this a little bit, Angel, before the other day. Even though the 76ers won, when you go back and you look at how Joel Embiid looked, he played hurt. There's something that is not right with him, and it is possible. I still think the 76ers are going to win, but I'm going to pick them in 7. But I'm not going to be shocked here if the Knicks smell blood in the water because of how Joel Embiid just didn't seem to look right, despite the win over Miami the other night. But here's Tim Legler on Get Up with the Crew, Monica McNutt, Greeny, and breaking it all down.
Well, I'll sum up how nasty it was. I'm talking directly to the city officials in Philadelphia, maybe even the governor in the state of Pennsylvania right now. The statue of Nicholas Batum should be erected. That statue should be up by the time they play their first home game against the Knicks, okay, by game 3. Because, listen, here's why. Without Nicholas Batum last night, their season lasts 4 more games. 4 more games. At most. They might lose against the winner of the 9-10. If they win that game, they're getting swept by the Celtics the way Joel Embiid looks right now. So if I'm the Knicks, I'm watching that, I'm licking my chops for all the reasons they both said. There's 3 things when you watch Embiid. It's not the shot making. He's always going to make shots. He could be out there in a full body cast. He's going to make shots because he's that skilled. 3 things I always look for when we're talking about Embiid and an injury. Is he changing ends of the floor? He was not changing ends of the floor. Is he sealing like with intent in the paint? Nope. He wasn't doing it at all. And then does he move laterally defensively to Allen's point when he's really good on top of his game? Even the way he looked when he first came back from the injury during that 5 or 6 game stretch to close out the season, when he is tracking guards to the rim, when they've turned the corner on him and he's jumped out, when he is going, block to meet a guy as a last line of defense. When you see that explosiveness defensively, that's when you know Joel Embiid is right. It has nothing to do with shot making. He's always going to do that. It's the other things, and none of that was there. If I'm the Knicks and I'm watching that game, I am licking my chops right now because Joel Embiid is not right.
Yeah, I think he makes a lot of good points there. He's going to get some points. But you go back, I heard another stat yesterday. In that game, his average speed, if this means anything, was 3.3 miles an hour running up and down the floor, which I guess is a lot slower than normal for him. But it's the same thing, getting back on defense. And I hope he makes it through the whole series, but I am not going to be surprised, Angel, if he has to miss a game or 2, in which case the Knicks are going to smell blood on the water. And that series could go, I could easily see that series going 7 games. But
he mentioned on, I think it was Comcast Sportsnet Philly or CSN Philly, however they call it anymore, their network. He mentioned that he felt he was only 80% confident in his knee. And he talked about it. And I've heard other players and other athletes say this before in the past, that when they know something's bothering them mentally, they got to figure out, okay, it's my knee. I got to get over this. And that's what he talked about. He was 80% focused upon the game, and in the same way with his knee. And he's hoping that doesn't attribute to what's going to happen here in the playoffs, but he wasn't the same. I think a lot of us saw that. He was not the same. We didn't see him running up and down the court. Tim Legler, and he's good. Tim Legler's good to pick up on all that stuff.
He does.
And, it's one of those things with Joel Embiid. I hope he remains healthy, but it's tough to see him on the court when he's not at 100%. And it's been a couple seasons now in a row. Last year, we mentioned earlier during the week that it was one of those things that he gave up and James Harden gave up during the playoffs along with Doc. And then Nick Nurse now kind of, I'm hoping, will change things around. We can get past this first round into the second and hopefully beyond that. But I really hope he's not down for the entire series. It's going to be game one is going to be big. And like you said, if the Knicks smell that blood in the water, it could spell doom unless Tyrese Maxey and Batum really step up in the rest of the series.
Well, and they're going. And I'm not saying they won't. They need to. They absolutely need to. Not that Maxey needs to score 40 or 50 points, but Batum. I mean, both of them. I mean, without Batum the other night, they don't win that. They don't win that game. I mean, he was the big X factor there. And this is something we brought up, about a month ago on this program with you. And I talked about what kind of shape is Joel Embiid going to be in. And I thought overall, when he came back, at least the first few games, that he looked pretty good. They won their last 7, right? The last 6 or 7 games, anyway, to get in this tournament, and they're hanging in there. But clearly the other night when they were playing, that there was an issue. He was not the same guy getting back on defense and running up and down the floor. So, and the other thing you have to worry about, which I always say this for any athlete in any sport, you start favoring an injury on one leg or arm or shoulder, if you're whatever it is, and or your plant foot if you're pitching, and all of a sudden you overcompensate for one injury, and then boom, another one happens.
Yeah,
sometimes on the other side of your body. That's what and if it's in the mind of Joel Embiid that leg and that knee may not be 100%. You just hope as an athlete, professional athlete, you can kind of block it out. As difficult as it may be. Kind of like what Jimmy Butler did the other night. That was pretty heroic what he did. He should no way have been playing in that game at the end, obviously. And but Spoelstra went with it. And it cost him because he's not going to play it. I think the Bulls are going to get him tonight. I do. So... yeah, so if you're a Philadelphia 76er fan, I would say get ready for a long series.
Yep. World. Something started all by itself again.
The Gremlins.
Yeah.
The Gremlins. Meanwhile, also yesterday, sticking with the NBA real quick before we get to the MLB rundown. So on Sirius XM yesterday, Jonte Murray came up, the young man from Toronto that is suspended for life by the NBA. But Charles Barkley says he wished he was only suspended a much shorter period of time.
I wish, because he's such a young kid, I want to make it clear. I understand why they did it, and rightfully so. But I wish they had said, okay, 5 years, something like that, to give him another chance. I understand, like I say, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I understand why they did it, but he's such a young kid. I wish they would, because, Nick Saban says something, and he's the greatest college football coach ever. He says, yeah, people give me a hard time when kids screw up, and I give them a second chance. He says, what am I supposed to do with them? Am I supposed to throw them out in the trash and wonder what's going to happen for them the rest of their life? And he does, and I always tell him I admire him because, we all did stuff when we were young and dumb. And he says, I'm not going to throw an 18, 19-year-old kid out in the trash and say, good luck the rest of your life. Yeah. I'm going to punish him. We're going to punish him, and we're going to give him a second chance.
All right, but here's the thing. First of all, it's a big difference in college. And when you get to the NBA or one of the first little you have all these meetings of how to be a professional in whatever league you are. They all do it. Trust me, they all do it. They all have these seminars. And at the top of every league's list is you do not get involved with gambling on yourself or your team or prop bets or anything. It is drilled into these guys' heads. And with all due respect, Jonte Murray is 24 years old. And he knows better. I mean, that was you cannot disrupt the integrity of the game, even though officials have done it, like Tim Donaghy been caught and others. And I get it. And there's a lot of people out there that still think the NBA is fixed, that certain series have to go this way or that way. I don't buy into that. But certainly when you got a guy like Jonte Murray, who, won a lot of money for some people on prop bets, even though some of the bets got suspended because of limited minutes and not taking enough shots and all that stuff. You cannot mess with the integrity of the game when it comes to point spreads, or goals, whatever sport you're in, whatever it is. You cannot mess with something that affects scoring or some stats. And he's going to be suspended forever in the NBA. Now, I think he'll get picked up somewhere along the way, overseas or whatnot, and he'll play professional basketball for some country, but it's not going to be here.
I don't think so. I agree. Yep. There's a clip too later on when we get into the NFL, as we were talking about JJ McCarthy. Mel Kiper has his thoughts on why he's kind of one of the top 20 players in a draft.
Well, let's do. If we want to, we can play that now. I'll start with the MLB rundown at the top of the hour, next hour, in a few minutes. So because JJ McCarthy all of a sudden is a lightning rod. I don't know where this came from.
Yep.
All of a sudden, because we just don't know, because he doesn't throw the ball in college. He hands it off. We've never seen him have to carry a team with his arm. Michigan Wolverines, and he was very good at what he did. But anyway. If you got it, let's see what Mel Kiper had to say about JJ McCarthy.
Yep. Give me a second. I'm loading things up here.
Processing. Processing.
As we're getting things loaded and ready. So almost there.
Because everything's all video now. For people asking about, I know we had questions about the app, and the new webpage is going to be done hopefully by the beginning of next week, as is the new app. So, but the video streaming is what is important. Let's be honest, for the most part on this show and most of digital sports radio, if you will, it's about the digital.
Yep.
The app is, you can listen on 102.9 Sports Radio. There's all the links I have on all the Facebook page, and all the Riptide Media Network video platform has the link right now. But when the app comes out, we'll have it for you. And then when the web page comes out, it'll be real simple. We'll just send you to the web page. You can check out any show. Links to all the show, all the video platforms as well would be up there. So there you have it.
Yep.
We are getting there. We are getting there. Okay, here's Mel Kiper on JJ McCarthy.
If on next Thursday night, Roger Goodell, whoever is picking there, says with the third pick in the NFL draft, a team selects JJ McCarthy, meaning ahead of Drake May and everybody else, what will you say?
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, J.J. McCarthy, it's not discrediting Lou J.J. McCarthy, saying, you would question going that high. Could expect it. Doesn't mean I would agree with it. I have him at 15 on the big board. I was on NFL Network with Daniel Jeremiah. DJ has J.J. McCarthy at 20. Not discrediting him. Like him, maybe don't love him, right? And when you rank players, it protects you from overdrafting. And I don't believe you should move quarterbacks up just because they're quarterbacks. You got to really believe in that rating, and that protects you from doing what a lot of teams have done, taking quarterbacks that shouldn't have gone that high, way too high. So for JJ, hey, he earned it. I say, hey, you put Drake May at Michigan, would the results been any different? Michigan had a great football team. JJ did a heck of a job, but he's benefiting from being 27-1. I agree, he made some great throws when he had to. He beat Washington with his legs when he had to. Bottom line is, top five's too rich for me. If it happens, and I'm expecting it to happen because it's mocked that way, but you got to differentiate mocks from ratings. And for me, JJ's the 15th best player. I wouldn't take him at 5.
Yeah, some good stuff. Again, McCarthy gets the game manager label, right? That's been the knock. He's averaged 22.6 passing attempts per game over the past 2 years, 29 games. So the lack of in-game volume only heightened the scrutiny around McCarthy's pro day, where McCarthy kind of validated some things with one of the best pro days I've ever seen as a passer, quote unquote, according to one NFL personnel evaluator. But that doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot to me when you're thrown to nobody, being covered by nobody, or, one person. I don't understand it. I know teams like Minnesota or Denver could be trading up for McCarthy. who people think will be a good fit in both places. His total QBR 39 when under pressure was among the best, by the way, of nearly 250 D1 quarterbacks with at least 25 starts over the past decade, only trailing Joey Burrow at a 49 and Trevor Lawrence 44. And Stroud was tied with McCarthy at 39. But one AFC scout said, quote, "I just don't see it on the McCarthy hype. I don't see consistent accuracy, his ability to get it done inside the white lines, and the Michigan staff did not call games or play offensively like they trusted him. What you're seeing now is the coaches and coordinators are more involved in the draft process in March and April, and they're realizing, shit, he's a pro already," the NFC exec said, and he showed more arm strength at this pro day than I thought he had. I think it's a crapshoot. I think, but is it a fair comment? We say, I don't see consistent accuracy, his ability to get it done inside the white lines, and Michigan staff didn't call games or play offensively like they trusted him. Well, when your other two running backs average 6 yards a carry, is that fair to say that? I don't know. I don't think it is.
Mel Kiper, I don't think in the last 2 years, maybe he's put a lot of emphasis on a player not being rated up there in the top 20-year-old in the top 15, but he's right. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is a top 5, prospect as far as a quarterback. I don't believe so, but someone is going to sell his goods to make it seem like he's the top 5. In the first round, sure, I would say below 20th. I think it'd be more comfortable. But then again, who am I? I'm just an armchair quarterback like everybody else. I don't see it where he is a top 5 NFL draft combine player.
No, and it's because of the lack. And again, it's not all his fault because they had such an unbelievable running game and offensive line at Michigan last year that we just don't know. He is the real unknown. But I'll tell you what, if the Patriots take him at 3, I know I'll be a little upset. I know a lot of Patriots fans will be upset. And maybe he ends up being, another quarterback from Michigan that comes out of nowhere, except not the pick number 199, but pick number 3 this time. It's a crap. We could sit there and speculate all. Like I said, Michael Penix Jr. is my guy. I think he's going to be the best quarterback in the draft when it's all said and done and have the best first year of any rookie in the draft. I'm just going out and hopefully he stays reasonably healthy. But nobody knows anything for sure. But it is that Minnesota deal with the LA Chargers, for the 2 first-round picks and the number 25 pick next year, and Minnesota's going to move all the way up, maybe, and take him with the 5th pick. Wow, that would be something. And there's been talk of the Patriots might be doing some of that too. That might be possible. Not necessarily take J.J. McCarthy, but another quarterback that might be available with the 11th pick, which in that case to me would be a guy like Michael Penix Jr., maybe Bo Nix, somebody like that as well. But it's certainly looking like that J.J. McCarthy's stock is going way up, and he might go in the top 10 picks. It's going to be really interesting, Angel. I'll tell you that. But
is Drew Rosenhaus his agent? That's why he's going up so fast?
Oh, maybe. Maybe is that his agent? I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't doubt it.
I just threw it out there.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. All right, another quick break here. When we come back at the top of the hour, or right after the top of the hour, we'll go through the MLB recap from last night. Lots going on. Mick Colagio will join me. We'll talk Stanley Cup playoffs at the bottom of the hour. Next hour, Jeff Defo DeForest of the now Angel and Defo Unscripted show. Defo is going to join me coming up at 9:05 a.m. or join us, I should say. He was on last night with the Bleacher Brothers. I heard him. Jeff's everywhere. He's another one. He's just all over the place. And then Glenn Ordway, recently inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Great NBA insider and sports insider. And we'll see what he has to say, too, about if he has any new information about exactly what happened between Belichick and Kraft and Arthur Blank in Atlanta. I'm sure he's going to have some real good takes about that. It's all part of the Pete Sheppard Show here on a Friday, live from the Naples Wealth Planning Studio on the Riptide Media Network.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants,
By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. I know you won't, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You got planned for the weekend?
Work, and more work.
Lord.
Yeah, there's tons of work. There's a lot of stuff I got to get updated and done for next week. and it starts the minute it goes off the show here, and clips and audio. And by the way, thanks to One Ireland for joining in. Austria, there was one more that I was missing.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Ireland, hello. Yeah, Australia. Good day, mate.
Taiwan, goodness gracious. Finally got
wow. Loving it. Taiwan, good morning, good evening, hello. Great to have everybody joining us around the world on this awesome stuff. And you're keeping track of all, everything that we do. It's amazing.
It's working the brain. I have to put a Rolodex up there in my freaking head. And I know a lot of you are listening. You don't know what it is. Back in the day, I'll have to find a picture. We used to have this thing where it was a plastic little container. It was like little index cards, and you put it in there and you rolled it around like, oh, here's my meeting. So that's just kind of give you guys a visual for those who are listening on the app. Yeah, there's all this stuff I'm going to keep up here in the noggin. I got to dump some things and then put some good stuff back and all that in preparation of June 15th, the big day. So yeah, just so much crap.
Before the June 15th that's your wedding day.
See.
I'm actually coming back from Massachusetts. That's Glenn's getting inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasting Hall of Fame. Later in that week, I might be coming back there, but you're just going to have a little small ceremony, right?
Yeah, it's going to be small. It's not going to be that big. It's just, very intimate. There's no need for something, huge and glamorous. I mean, we're up there as far as age where we're not looking to do big things, but the venue where we're going to be at, it's going to be really nice and it's going to be a good time. It's going to be out on the beach, which is even better. That's what we want.
Sweet.
Yeah. And then
that's great.
I'm quite sure we'll come down to Fort Myers and have another little small celebration and have fun with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have another one down here. I'm always up for going out. You know that. All right. Let's do a little MLB rundown from yesterday. Rangers and Tigers as usual. Exciting stuff. Texas got it going in the second inning.
I'm trying to get him home. And he hits his ball hard down the right field line. That one headed to the wall. It's gone. Jonah Heim gets one out. And it's now 4-0 Rangers. Jonah's third home run of the year.
This is, and the reason why this is an interesting score from yesterday, and I just want to punch up the box score, because, and we'll get to some of the highlights as well. But remember a couple of years ago, all of you who follow college baseball and especially Vanderbilt, Jack Leiter, Al Leiter's kid, was the next Roger Clemens, this, that, and the other thing. And he had a tremendous college career, but he sucks. He's terrible. I was looking at his, I don't know why they even called him up. He's been terrible in the minors. His ERA was well over 5, AA and AAA. Terrible. And yesterday, he only lasted. This kid was so pumped up, hyped up, can't miss. 3 2/3, 8 hits, 7 runs, walked 3, struck out 3.
Yep.
17.18. Is it 17 or 171? No, 17.18 ERA. So just, man, oh man, there's a prospect that I don't know if he's ever going to make it. So that put the in the top of the second. A little bit later on, Adolis Garcia added to it.
Here comes a 2-2. And it was a splitter. And that one lifted deep out to left center field. Carrying well, and it is gone! A shot for Garcia, his 5th of the year, and the Rangers retake the lead. It's 5-4.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks to Bally Sports Southwest right there. And in the end,
buffer, or maybe get off to a better start, but the Rangers have had a tough schedule. That one out to left field. That drops in, base hit. And here comes Smith. He scores.
Yep, final score, Rangers 9, Tigers 7. Meanwhile, the Rays and Angels went at it yesterday.
And up the right side, out toward the corner. Woniak will have to go in after it. It bounds away. Palacios around third. He's going to score. And into third goes Rosario. And the Rays grab an early lead. Inning streak goes to 10.
Yeah, Braves going to win the game by a score of 2-1. Yesterday at Fenway Park, where it was 46 degrees, and I'm told it felt like 39 degrees on April 18th yesterday.
Yikes.
Pretty cold rain. It looked absolutely miserable, and so was the freaking game. The Red Sox finished 3-7 on the road trip. Every game they lost, they made an error in the game. The 3 games they won, they did not make an error. Here's what happened late in the game.
Trying to run one in on the hands. Smashed it into left field for an RBI single. Freeman scores. 5-1 Cleveland.
5-1 Cleveland next to Valley Sports Great Lakes. The Red Sox tried to make a game of it later on in the bottom of the 6th.
And a shot toward the alley. That finds an open space. It's off into the triangle all the way to the 420 mark. That's going to score 2. McGuire and Rafaela into third and pulling up with a 2-run triple. Jarren Duran, and a shot the Red Sox were in dire need of to climb back into this game. He found the gap, and he was off to the races.
Yeah, they lose 5-4, though. They couldn't come up with any clutch hits after that. The Indians, the Guardians take 3 out of 4 from the Red Sox. At Fenway, as I said.
They're the Indians, not the Guardians. They're the Indians.
The Indians, yes. They're always the Indians, yes. Number 1 in your heart. The Giants and the Diamondbacks played yesterday as well. One team scored, one team didn't. Take a guess.
10th appearance of the year. Flores down the left field line. Into the corner. It's a fair ball all the way to the wall. 1 run is in Lee. Wade scores around to third. Soler. And a huge hit for Wilmer Flores makes it 3-0 Giants.
That's thanks to NBC Sports Bay Area. Giants go on to win 5-0. 5-0. Marlins and Cubs got postponed yesterday as well in the rain. And that's all the games that were played yesterday. There wasn't a lot of MLB action, believe it or not. So there you have it. And in the NHL last night, the Kraken over the Wild 4-3, Jets over the Canucks 4-2, Flames over the Sharks 5-1, Avalanche beat the Oilers 5-1, Ducks beat the Knights because Vegas didn't feel like playing. I guess they didn't want to face Edmonton. Ducks won 4-1 last night, and the Kings over the Blackhawks 5-4 in overtime. Now, sticking with the NHL, Angel, because we were talking about yesterday with Rick Horrow, and it became official about the Phoenix Coyotes moving on to Salt Lake City. ABC 15 Arizona has more.
ABC 15 can now confirm that the Arizona Coyotes will be moving out of the Valley and heading to Salt Lake City, ending months of speculation and rumors that have really heated up in just the past week. Behind the scenes, we've been watching closely as the NHL's Board of Governors met, and they voted just moments ago to approve that deal for Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith to come in and purchase the team. So now, for so many hockey fans across Arizona, we've heard from you. We know this is a major blow. The Coyotes have been our hometown team since 1996 after they moved from Winnipeg. We followed the team every step of the way, including the drama off the ice, with the team leaving Glendale a few years ago, then finding their temporary home at Mullet Arena. And it was less than a year ago, voters in Tempe decided not to approve a new arena there. There are a lot of questions right now about the possibility of an expansion team coming to Arizona.
Yeah, and I understand. We talked about it yesterday. Yeah, an expansion team, but where they're going to play, who's going to fund it?
Right.
Who's going to fund it? Again, the Coyotes play their games, Mullet Arena. That's where Arizona State plays. And Arizona State drew more fans overall than it's only a 5,000 seat venue. So obviously it wasn't a first class, professional facility they were in, although I'm told it's pretty nice at Arizona State. The current deal at Mullet Arena was scheduled for 3 years, including two 1-year options that would go through the 2026-27 season. So now they're going to play at the Delta Center, which is also home for the Utah Jazz. So a new ownership, maybe a new look, maybe a new name, a new nickname for 1 year anyway. But as far as hockey ever getting professional hockey back to Arizona, that's going to be something, unless they're going to build an arena, and they didn't want to build it. Maybe they didn't want to build it for this particular owner. Maybe a new expansion team comes in and they do that.
Yeah,
they do that. Okay. Oh, is this a boot? This is you got a clip up there?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
With the new owner of the of Utah, which, it's still to be determined as far as the name, but here's a clip yesterday from courtesy of ESPN, NHL on ESPN.
It's the latest and newest owner of the National Hockey League. Ryan and his wife Ashley are at the helm in Utah. And Ryan, thanks so much for joining us here on The Point. How is the NHL better today with a franchise in Utah?
Well, there's already 5,000 ticket deposits that have happened in the first 45 minutes, so I think that's a pretty good sign. We're excited. If you think about Utah and the market, I mean, we're the fastest growing job market, we're the youngest demographic in the country. We've got lowest unemployment. It's an incredible spot, and I think hockey is one of the only Winter Olympic sports that isn't training year-round in Utah, and so it's perfect.
You met your players, some front office people. What was your message as you spoke to the team today?
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique experience, right? I mean, if you think about what this deal is we're starting a new franchise in Utah, but, in a way, we're ahead of ourselves and behind ourselves. We got to go create a name. We got to go do these things, but we have this amazing young core group of talented players who have had a little bit of uncertainty, and I think we can provide them a lot of that. They're within the same family as the NBA, Utah Jazz. It's all one ownership group, which I think is really, really cool with SCG. But more than that, it's like you get to go do this all together. Like, we get to go on this journey together. What an incredible opportunity that we can all look back 10, 15 years from now and be like, we did that. Like, we went and established this new franchise. And for me, that is so incredibly exciting because you get a fresh start. You get a chance to participate, to be a part of it. And, I don't think these guys are going to get that opportunity ever again, and neither will I. So that's my message. Like, let's go do something that's never been done together. And that's fun. I dig that.
Can you dig that? Meanwhile, Angel, real quick, Jamie Dolan, the rookie for Arizona, talked about the situation.
I think there's a lot of it where you got to take a positive outlook on things. I've grown up, been raised here, and followed Arizona sports my whole life. If I wasn't going to have a positive look, then it would be kind of pointless to really be doing any of this. So I'm looking forward to whatever kind of comes my way. And the start, obviously, that they want to do something big there, and there's a plan already set up, and the people there are excited. So if we weren't looking at it positive, then it's going to be a long off season, a long year. So I think I've talked to my dad about that and how his life was flipped upside down, and Arizona ended up being the place he calls home and still does. So there's obviously a side of it where you have to kind of take that look at it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for whatever reason, look, Alex Murillo and his group did not do a great job down the stretch here for the Arizona Coyotes. So I think if you're a player, although you hate to leave the area, I understand that, but I think you're going into a much better situation for people that actually care about this franchise. I'm not sure what Alex Murillo's, when they didn't get the stadium and all that, maybe that just soured him as well. But again, he bought the franchise for $300 million back in 2019 and just sold it for $1.2 billion. So, a little more than 3.5 times what he paid for it. So that's a good payday.
It is. It is.
Spalding Media checking in. Good morning, guys. Such a shame to see the Yotes go away. Could have been an intriguing what-if market if they ever went on a run like the Lightning. Yeah, I mean, they had their moments early on. They had some really good moments, but not lately. Not lately. I think they're going to a much better situation.
I think it's a good point you raised too, though, Pete, when you talked about maybe they didn't want to do anything with the current owner of the Coyotes. It could have been a possibility. And I just throwing the name out there for Utah. How about the Utah Ice? I don't know. Something.
No, maybe. Yeah, maybe. And by the way, you just heard Josh Dolan, and his father was a legend in Phoenix, Shane, back in the day. I think the players are pissed because they were kept in the dark for much of this until last Friday when Billy Armstrong, the GM, met the team on the road in Edmonton, and players and coaches demanded. I mean, there was demanded answers in a team meeting. and left that night understanding that the move was imminent. So, I mean, that's the other thing. Everything's going to be so. The Coyote players, draft picks, hockey operations department will all relocate to Utah, playing for the yet-to-be-named franchise. But, yeah, I like the Utah Ice. The Utah Ice. Also, quickly, around here in Southwest Florida, Jacksonville Icemen beat the Florida Everblades last night in Game 1 of their opening round playoff series, 4-0. They scored 3 power play goals in that one. Game 2 was not till Sunday afternoon, until 3 o'clock. So, but I still have faith in the Everblades and that Coach Brad Ralph will have them turned around and they will get the split before they come back to Estero, Florida, to take on them next Wednesday night. So, again, the Utah team, they'll play at the Delta Center in Salt Lake City, facility of the Smiths own, and which is also home to the Jazz. SCG said it'll improve improvements over the summer to outfit the arena for hockey, including building a hockey-specific locker room. According to Smith, the Delta Center will have 12,000 unobstructed seats for hockey games next season, and SCG will work to expand on that. So, Utah Governor Spencer Cox has been very supportive. A bill was passed in the Utah State Senate to help fund a renovated entertainment district downtown in anticipation of the NHL franchise. So, Morello, meanwhile, I guess received $1 billion in the sale, as you just said, and will maintain the name, intellectual property, and historical records of the Coyotes, which will now be considered an active franchise. Morello will have a 5-year window in which he can try to build an arena and bring a team to Arizona for an expected price tag of $1 billion. The extra $200 million in this week's sale will be split among the NHL teams. So we'll see what happens with Arizona. And I don't know what their season ticket holders were the last couple of years, but I can't believe it was that high. And obviously this year they were one of the worst teams in the NHL. Spalding says there is an idea that the Coyotes owner did this so maybe he can focus on getting an arena to lure expansion team and bring back the Coyotes. So maybe the sale could help facilitate that. We shall see. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about.
Yep.
But for whatever reason, the Senate or the Congress in Arizona had no faith in that current team because they wouldn't, the bill failed for the stadium, maybe, or the arena. So maybe with an expansion franchise, they'll feel better about it. Although, I don't know. We'll find out. We'll get in touch. We'll talk with Mick Colagio about it at the bottom of the hour, my great NHL insider for you. As well. Text the show 727-858-6650, 727-858-6650. Can I say we should, for at least the time being, you can call that number too if you want to call into the show?
Well, of course they can.
Okay. So that's good. Spalding says it couldn't have been that high. They play in a 5,000-seat arena. Yeah, no, that's what I said. That's why the season tickets couldn't have been well. I know Arizona State, my understanding is outdrew them anyway. Their hockey team. Watch the show on X Twitter at PShep326. Watch it on my Facebook page, the Broad Street South Facebook and YouTube pages, Rumble, LinkedIn, Spotify, and of course on Sports Radio 102.9. Mick Colagio, bottom of the hour, 9:05. Jeff Defo DeForest will join me at 9:05 at 9:30 a.m. Glenn Big O Ordway, recently inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. We'll talk all things NBA and get his take on what's going on with the Patriots with Robert Kraft and Arthur Blank and Bill Belichick, and who or what, if any, are you going to believe? Anybody as well. Some college football news that I want to get into as well before we go to break at the bottom of the hour. 14 Colorado players entering the transfer portal this week. Buffalo's coach, by the way, Deion Sanders, downplayed the notion that the departures will have a significant impact. Quote, "We're good. I trust the recruiting team. I trust our coaches. And please have some faith in me." Sanders said, "We good. We all right. We all right." Okay. Meanwhile, RG3, Robert Griffin III, had some thoughts of his own on what is going on with the Colorado Buffaloes. And
Eli is the idea of a player forcing his way through whatever leverage he has out of not being drafted or not playing at a place that he doesn't want to be. Eli Manning famously did it with San Diego. John Elway famously did it with Baltimore generations ago. It's rare, but it happens. And RG3, I know that you believe, as one who was sort of in this situation at one point in your life, a super high draft pick, Heisman winner, all that kind of stuff. Do you think Deion is talking about what the future of pro football is going to look like?
100%, Greeny. It is what the future is going to be. The power shift is happening. And I got to say, when I was coming out, we went to we had these meetings with NFL veterans, and they talked to us about how playing in the NFL is a privilege. And it's not a right. It's not something that you deserve. It's something that you're blessed with. And I don't disagree with that. But for a certain select few guys at the top of the draft, they can start exercising that power that has a lot of college coaches running from the college ranks to the NFL. You look at Marvin Harrison Jr., who didn't do the combine, who didn't do pro day, didn't run a 40. And you look at Caleb Williams, who actually went to the combine and basically did nothing except for the meetings. Players are starting to understand their true value. They are now understanding that they can control their narratives and be in the media at the same time as they play.
Yeah, well, there you have it. I thought it was going to be a little bit different cut, but anyway, there you have it. So we'll see what happens. Because Deion says, "Oh, they're just backups anyway." It doesn't really. Well, we'll see. Colorado started off okay last year and then faded quickly down the stretch, but we shall see. Of course, Deion Sanders from around here in Southwest Florida and Fort Myers as well. All right, quick break. Mick Colagio going to join me at the bottom of the hour. We break down the Stanley Cup playoffs and get his thoughts about Arizona moving on to Salt Lake City, Utah. All part of the Pete Sheppard Show, live from the Naples Well Planning Studio on the Riptide Media Network.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Whoa! Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woohoo! Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Sheppard Show here live from the Naples Well Plating Studio on the Riptide Media Network. It is a Friday. It is April 19th. How is everybody doing today? Going to chat with Mick Colagio in just a minute or so. When he checks in, we're going to break down all things NHL. And I know he's got some thoughts about the Phoenix Coyotes moving on to Salt Lake City as well. In fact, he tweeted out something really cool. Craig Morgan, who is a great reporter for the Phoenix Sports Arizona chapter chair and does all things Phoenix Coyotes. He wrote a very heartfelt column yesterday about the situation. And there's a lot of people in Arizona that are very, very upset that this team is moving on. But it's not the first time it's happened in sports. It will not be the last. Angel Martinez. But everything okay? Everything okay back in the Tampa Central where you are?
I don't know, yeah, everything's pretty good. Well, I don't. Do we really want to kind of rub in some of the weather? I do see Mickey checked in, but yeah, no, everything's good here. It's gonna be a lovely weekend. We're gonna be up in somewhere near 90s, and it's gonna be absolutely fantabulous.
It's been unbelievable this week, and Mick Colagio is joining me right now, second time this week. But I had to do it because I just love talking hockey with him, and there's so much I want to get into. And now that the
hold
NHL,
on, I'm feeling. I lost sound. I had sound. Now I lost sound.
Oh, I can hear you though.
Why did I lose sound?
I don't know. I
lost
can hear you.
Pete. I have video.
I can hear you.
I don't have sound. Why don't I have sound?
I don't know. We can hear you
to
fine.
Start with. Oh, it just came in for a half a second.
Okay, well, I can hear you fine.
I don't have any.
Yeah, exit out and come back in.
Actually, I heard that. I actually heard that, Angel. So I think I'm with you guys now.
All right, can you hear me?
You want me to still do that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. Exit out and come back in. Just like that. Whoosh. See, it's like beaming away on the Enterprise, except it's a wave. Instead of going, you get this. Sometimes that's all it is. It's just resetting. So again, Mick Colagio going to join me, as you can see. One of the best hockey writers in the country and podcast guys. He's outstanding. BostonHockeyNow.com, RinkRapMC.com as well, and so many other outlets. How this guy is not working more for ESPN and the NHL Network is beyond me, because he knows the ins and outs of almost every single team and is really tied into all things National Hockey League. Let's see. Oh, I see him popping up again. He just beamed back into civilization. So let's try this again. Mick, can you hear me now?
I believe I can.
Oh, lucky you. All right, so I'm watching the Red Sox yesterday blow another freaking game. 3-7 homestand. All 7 losses, as you probably know, they made an error. All 3 wins, they did not make an error. But what in the wide, wild world of sports was that weather yesterday? It looked like it said 44 degrees, icy rain. Some people said it felt like in the high 30s. What the hell is that?
We had May at the beginning of the month, and then we quickly moved to March. So, I mean, that's April though.
I know.
Our spring is it's so short. It's so violent. We thought we were getting off easy, but it's we're kind of going backwards here. We're caught in a riptide of weather.
Good pun. Riptide Media Network. Hey, first I wanted to say, great. I didn't realize Wally Harris, the Penguin, right? First director of officials, and passed away. Probably my all-time favorite official, Mick. Really, I'm somebody that I remember. He's one of the first officials I remember growing up as a kid in the early 70s that I always respected.
Yeah, Wally was a guy that you knew what game you were getting. Mm-hmm. You knew exactly, what it was going to be. You might not like him every night, but you always had a sense of trust in the direction of the game and how it was going to be officiated. Like since the 21st century, there's been 2 officials on the ice for NHL games. And that's been a difficult transition because everything's had to become sort of league directive. So when people get on officials, and again, they took the names off the back. Wally was in the epicenter of that era when the referee had his name across the back, and as soon as he skated on the ice, you just heard it from the balcony, and the fans were so close in the Boston Garden, for instance. Not the only building in the league where this was the case, but really just the greatest example of the atmosphere that used to be in NHL arenas was sort of like the gladiator, in the Colosseum, Roman Colosseum, and you getting out there and you just had to have his own dedicated boo, people. But it was like Gary Bettman at the NHL draft, and he takes the podium. But it was a ritual. But at the same time, he was the devil you knew. And and now I look back on him with so much fondness, and I'm thrilled that that he actually became a Facebook friend. So,
that's great.
There's certain guys along the way that I grew up going to Bruins games and seeing them ref the games, and they all had their own certain sort of personality. The other guys too. You sort of had a feeling about how the players felt about them, and how you as a fan felt about them, and Wally was right in that era. So R.I.P. to Wally Harris, and God bless his family.
Yeah, and you're very classy and calm, well balanced. Everything that I am not when I'm watching games sometimes. But I will say this: the only time you don't cuss a lot like I do, which is a bad habit, but whatever. I am what I am when I'm watching games. But the only time I really heard you ever go off on a referee was Andy Van Hellemans, and I think who was regarded as one of the best referees in the NHL, except when he used to ref Bruins games for some reason. And I think it was a Montreal playoff game one night, and I was watching it with you. I forget, for some reason we weren't there. We were watching it from your house, and I wish I had that on tape because you went off on him in a couple of times. It is hysterical. When Mick Colagio gets mad, you do not want to be around him. He turns into the Hulk. You wouldn't, not throwing things and all that stuff, but it's a side of Mick I had not seen.
There was one night I remember I was watching with my father-in-law, and I was dead silent the entire game. And there was this one play where it was like you sort of that play that's about 5 to 10 feet inside the zone along the boards, where you just know that puck possession is really going to decide the hockey game.
Yeah.
Either going to go forward at that point, or it's going to pop back out, and they're going to lose. And I think they're on the road. It might have been a Buffalo series in '88. Trying to remember, but that was probably the one. And at that moment, my fist just came slamming down on this tray table. And my father-in-law just looks at me like his head snapped in my direction, like, because it came out of nowhere, like, boom. And at that moment, I just felt like, oh boy, I am really good. Because the whole game I was simmering, but I wasn't showing that, But my eyeballs were probably red, So.
Well, and when you're covering games and everything else, if people don't know me, you don't cheer in the press box or anything like that and stuff like that. You try not to get overly emotional, even though where we used to sit when a bunch of us, the same people, were together all the time, we could get away with a little bit more. Not scream. We're not screaming over the railing or anything like that, but to ourselves. But I did say, my worst moment was when that horrible call against Buffalo came against P.J. Axelson. You might remember. I went over into the corner where nobody was, and I took a chair and I smashed it up against the wall. I couldn't contain myself. It became only a couple people saw it. I think the late great Carl Bean saw it, and this was right before we went downstairs to. I was so pissed at that call because they got screwed out of that series and anyway, we digress. That was that's the only time I've lost it in the prep. But I give myself credit. I went.
Well, P.J. Axelson would have had that overtime goal, and against Washington had the very tip of Tim Taylor's skate blade not been on the edge of the crease.
That's the play I'm talking about.
Axelson has an overtime goal that gets negated because, and this is the '98 playoff series.
Yep.
And then you move to '99 when the same rules are still in play, and Buffalo and Dallas are in double overtime. And if you look at this overhead picture that has survived all these years from the goal that won Dallas, that's the Stanley Cup, Brett Hull scoring it. Not only is his skate blade planted in the blue, it's up against Hasek's stick.
Yes.
So Hasek's laying on his stomach and reaching out and can't get to the puck. So not only is he in the crease, it is by definition goaltender interference. And one of my favorite quotes ever was actually from a Sabres fan leaving the game when approached by a TV reporter for reaction, and she just said, "It's Buffalo. We know the drill."
But yeah, because between that and all the super, that was right when the Bills were getting to their Super Bowls too during that time and losing.
Oh my gosh! When they lose 3 in a row?
4
in a row.
Yeah,
4 straight. 4 straight Super Bowls. That'll be a record that'll last in infamy.
Yes, it will. Now, the first team to lose 4 Super Bowls was the Vikings, and then
well, that proves their ability to get there. But they didn't lose 4 in a row.
4 in a row is tough. 4 in a row is tough. All right, you had Craig Morgan, who I know who covers the Phoenix Coyotes and everything else. I'm going to read your tweet because I thought it was excellent yesterday. Excellent, heartfelt column. How to believe before we get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, and now that everything's said, hard to believe, but Arizona had the Coyotes longer than New England had the Whalers, longer than Quebec had the Nordiques, and longer than Minnesota had the North Stars. That is unbelievable, Mick. Unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, probably had them 15 years longer than they should have. But once they knew that the experiment of turning Glendale into their Foxborough was an abysmal failure. I went to one Coyotes game in my life, a home game that is, and it was in Glendale. And it was the second game of the 2007-08 season, and Wayne Gretzky was the Coyotes coach. Yeah. And this was very shortly before Patrice Bergeron's catastrophic head injury from the played at the end of that October at home against Philadelphia. But what I remember most from that game, other than my pal being somehow poisoned at the bar and having an awful night on the ride. His ride home was from hell. But Gretzky after the game was talking about, the Bruins had played a lousy opener in Dallas a couple nights before and lost the game. So now they're in Glendale, and Patrice Bergeron was just took over the hockey game. He just was like had a great everything the Coyotes even thought of doing, Bergeron knew it before they did it and took the puck away and just had one of those vintage Bergeron games. And he's still a very young player at this point, right? So Claude Julien's first season coaching the Bruins, they'd been out of the playoffs two straight years. There'd been no NHL season the year before. So this is, nobody's paying attention yet to the Bruins in Boston. And Gretzky says to the media horde in the hallway, crushing on him after the game for comments, he said, talking about Bergeron, and people just staring at him. And he pauses and says, I don't think you guys realize how good this guy is. And so it takes one to know one, right?
Yeah, exactly. The great one to another great one. Yeah. So what did you think? I don't know how well you know the Alex Murillo situation, the former owner now of the Phoenix Coyotes, and he couldn't get Congress to buy. Here's the part of the story. He couldn't get Congress to come up with a bill where they'd fund the stadium and the arena and all that stuff. But now he thinks they can, with an expansion team, that the bill's going to pass.
Well, they had this plan. They had this plan. We're going to buy this big patch of land on an auction, sent out a giant press release with all of this detailed information on with a picture and a design and how they're going to have this theater that was going to be covered over with a walking area that'll be shielded from the midday heat and weather. Any extreme weather would be shielded from, and it was almost like Logan's Run. It was like it would be like a civilization underneath some sort of
well, wait a second,
funny-shaped dome.
Yeah, but people over 30 died in Logan's Run. That didn't happen here, though, right?
That's true. They went to Carousel and went up in the air and with these funny goalie masks on, and they wore goalie masks. I mean, I think everybody went to that movie because it had Farrah Fawcett in it.
Farrah Fawcett was naked in the ice. It's the first time I saw it.
Yeah, I thought it was the other. Really? I guess I
she was naked in the block of ice, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was the first time I saw. I couldn't see a lot because it was a PG movie, but I don't know. I was excited.
Wow.
I was like 8 years old, 9 years old.
And everybody had the same Farrah Fawcett one-piece bathing suit picture on the back of their garage wall.
Yeah.
So,
your mom always commented on it. Take that
the back of everybody's auto parts store.
So how do you think this is all going to play out? I mean, they're going to a new, obviously they're going with the Delta Center where the Jazz play. The new owner, I heard him with Bucci last night. Angel played the clip. They seem very excited, but it's just, do you think Murillo was a good owner overall for this team? I don't think so. I'm glad they're heading in a different direction.
I haven't liked any of the ownership there since they pulled that team out of when they first got to Phoenix and played where the Suns were playing, and they were in that short building in downtown. And when they first had the team and they had traded Alexei Zhemnov to Chicago for Jeremy Roenick, and Roenick brought instant personality to that team, followed up by Keith Tkachuk. And that team was really good. And it was around 96, 97 season. Yeah. And so they really it looked to me like the Winnipeg Jets with Roenick now in Phoenix were going to be a hit. And they had that short arena, so they had the balcony seats coming right up near the glass like a college rink or something. And if you were in the back row of that, you couldn't see what was going on at the near net. That's how short the building was. It was architecturally impossible for everyone in the building to see both nets. So unless if you were seated in that end of the rink, so they had to do something. They had to get a building, and the Foxborough idea, the concept. Now the Bruins never did this, but I remember in the early days that Robert Kraft owned the team and he wanted a stadium. He threatened to go to Hartford. There was all kinds of. Right. So in Providence, so Rhode Island people were like, bring it on, man. We'd love to have the Patriots. So. You were one of them.
Well, I thought Buddy Ciancio at the time might make it happen.
That's the one. That's the one.
As Steve Martin said before, after the hours I spent holding up her poster with one hand, but we digress. He said that. Late great Farrah Fawcett. All right, yeah. So overall, this is probably a good thing. I mean, in Salt Lake City, the owner was talking about they already had 5,000 season tickets sold already in the 12,000 seat arena for that game. So And not 12,000. They made sure to put non-obstructed view seats. 12,000 of them, because for what you were just alluding to.
Yeah, I think that's a Boston Garden. I think had 13,909, and because you had like a certain number of seats, and then I guess because of whatever the fire laws are, if you're not allowed to call it standing room only, like they could in Chicago, what they did in Boston back in the '60s was they just sell they put seats in places where you could not see more than a third of the rink. Because the balcony hung down,
I sat in those a few times because I had to
see
as a kid.
one face-off circle. Yeah.
And you have to be literally, if you were at the top where the Jumbotron at the time came down, you had to watch the game like that. You had to, at a certain time, seriously had to look like this.
That's right.
And I'm like,
everybody makes jokes about the poles, but it's actually was the corners of the rink where the majority of the worst seats were. Because they built up seats in those areas where there were originally none. And those were open areas prior to. And so Bobby Orr changed the architecture of Boston Garden twice. Once by coming into the NHL as an 18-year-old kid in 1966. They added those 4 ceiling-high corner sections called balcony loge. So they actually changed the architecture of the building to accommodate more fans because they knew what was going on. So they did that in that era. And then when he left in free agency to Chicago in 1976, they wiped out the Causeway Street side of the second balcony and replaced it with 2 levels of luxury suites. And then a few years later, several years later, actually, they did the North Station side. Mm-hmm. So everybody's, like you see that little table hockey game that people have that looks like Boston Garden, and it shows like the luxury seats. Well, that's not my Boston Garden growing up. I had the 6 rows of the second balcony, and we'd buy this ticket. It would say obstructed view in big diagonal letters across the face of the ticket. And you'd say, okay, so I'm in the second balcony, but there's no pole or anything there. Well, you'd find out that only the first 3 rows of that section could actually see the near end of the ice.
But you got charged more. You got charged just as much. They didn't. Those were expensive.
That's right. They were $3.
$30, right?
Well, $3 when I was a teenager.
Well, yeah, but later on we're talking about the old Garden. I remember getting tickets last second, having that's the only thing available.
Right.
It
was so steep. You had an iron railing in front of every row, and so what we did was we would climb up onto the back. 1 foot would be on the seat back, which is a wooden seat back that doesn't move, and then the other foot would be on the railing that separates the 6th row from the 5th row, and then you would be in line with the ceiling girder, and you would look over and be able to lean forward.
Scary.
And see Orr on the near boards digging out the puck. That was nothing better than that for a Bruins fan growing up.
All right. I could do this all day. Well, let's get into now that the playoffs are set. I thought it was interesting last night. I don't know if the Vegas Knights tanked on purpose because they didn't want to play Edmonton, whatever. We'll get into that. Losing to the Ducks. I forgot to see if the BC kid scored. If he scored last night for Anaheim.
I thought he got one really early.
Did he? Okay. Well, that's good. All right, let's begin. Let's start with Florida and Tampa Bay here, Mick, and then the Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And let's start with Bruins and Toronto Maple Leafs because that game against Ottawa the other night. Again, I'm not sure. I hope they didn't have the mentality that they wanted to play this team and not Tampa Bay. I hope that wasn't the case, but limping into the playoffs regularly, I don't know how much stock I put into that because it's a whole new ball game the whole new hockey game once it starts. But Bruins and Maple Leafs, obviously the history is way on the Bruins side. No matter who's playing the Maple Leafs in the playoffs, if Tampa Bay wasn't bagged up like they were last year, Tampa Bay would have beat them in the first round last year. So absolutely everything to me is on the Bruins side here. When I look at the Maple Leafs, I try not to let past history get in the way. But Mick, when past history says 1954 is the last time the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup, and past history says that they just cannot get out of their own way when it comes to the playoffs, especially getting out of the first round, how am I not loving the Bruins in this series, despite the last 4 games?
Well, because really, the simple answer to that is that the Maple Leafs are the 2003 Red Sox. And one of these years, with all of that skill and all of that frustration in that market, and all of the obsession in that market and all the waiting. I mean, something's got to give. They finally did win a playoff series last year, and incidentally, Michael Bunting, who was traded to Pittsburgh at the deadline, and I thought Troy was traded out of the playoffs. Turns out he was, but he was almost in the playoffs, and he was a big reason. He was a big reason. So I look at Toronto and I say, okay, why did you move on from this guy? His elbow took out Kucherov in that series and really compromised, not Kucherov, Sergachev. And Mikhail Sergachev, who's one of the big three defensemen, and compromised the Lightning in that series. And so I look at this and say, the Leafs, I thought it was kind of a move that was kind of antithetical to the way that they need to take their team. That said, I don't know exactly why we don't fear the Leafs more around here in Boston. There's an odd confidence that just is like very dismissive, and oh yeah, but they have questionable goaltending. Okay, the Bruins defense is better. Okay, well, I'm not convinced that the Bruins have scraped the barnacles off their boat. They have a propensity from an intangible standpoint of giving up a goal right after they score a big one. What else? They
seem to get complacent at times. Sometimes they need to get complacent, and I don't understand. I want to understand why, but
I think it's because they have to play outside their identity to get ahead, and it's not in their DNA to play as hard and as mean and nasty and tough as they have to win against good teams. So they do it when they're in desperate situations. They've had an incredible season given what they lost personnel-wise. Incredible. It's unbelievable what they accomplished.
Yeah.
For them to go away the way they did the last two games, I know there are conspiracy theories around here that they didn't want to play Tampa either and wanted to back into a series against the Maple Leafs. And I'm like, no, it just doesn't. There's no part of me that says that you can dial it down and then dial it back up. It's you have to have your game in order, and I'm looking at this situation that they're in now with a Leafs team that isn't feeling great about things or about themselves, and thinking that the only thing that everybody probably can agree on is that whoever wins the Tampa-Florida series is going to beat whoever wins the Boston-Toronto series. That's probably the only thing you could probably take a straw poll and get 99% agreement on.
Let's talk about
the Bruins' hope is that Toronto and Tampa Tampa and Florida bang each other up so badly that the Bruins get a compromised opponent if they can survive the Leafs. So,
I think the Bruins can beat anybody in the East, and they can lose to anybody in the East if
it's been that kind of year, isn't it?
I know it's kind of a phony baloney type of answer, but quickly, let's talk about Florida and Tampa Bay for a little bit before we have to go to break here, Mick. But as you said, the Lightning and Kucherov has been unbelievable. He'd be my vote for MVP, 100 assist man like Connor McDavid. But this series with Florida and Tampa Bay, I think it's going 7, and I'm gonna go with Coop over Paul Maurice in this one. I'm gonna go with the Lightning in 7 here. This should be a hell of a series, as I think most of them will be. Well, how are you breaking this one down?
I think it's a war, and I think that the key to this is that guys like Steve Stamkos, he has to produce. Guys like Cirelli have to hold their own because you have, assuming the health of Barkov with Florida, and then you have Bennett, you have such rugged depth down the middle on the Florida side of the ice. Tampa, Braden Point is a world-class player. He plays in tandem with Kucherov. Amazing. They both have eyes in the back of each other's heads. for each other of where they are. It's unbelievable. It's like a pond hockey game, big kids against little kids when they're out there together. So it's but really, there's so much there from different guys in Florida. They seem to have more players, in my mind, that have established NHL impact on playoff series in their careers, whether it's Carter Verhaeghe or Sam Reinhart. Asimont, for instance, with Tampa, has proven this season that he can become an impactful player to them. We've seen it from Nick Paul. I'm not sure whether we get it from them in the playoffs. I'm also not sure if Tampa's defense is they have to win a couple of rounds to get Sergachev back in their lineup. So are they going to be good enough on D? I know Florida moved on from Radko Gudas and came back with Oliver Ekman-Larsson, which is a completely different hockey widget, just a lot nicer looking player from a puck handling standpoint. But Gudas was immense for Florida in last year's playoffs. And so I do think that although both teams have gone through some changes, I've liked how the guys that each team got has meshed with their group. So I do look at those that series and thinking like, man, I hope I get to see a few games of this on TV. And it's going to be a heck of a series, and whoever wins it has to hope that they get some health, because they're going to be at an advantage to play Boston and Toronto if they emerge from that series healthy. That's the one thing that, you can't count on, given how those two teams can play in the playoffs and how rugged it can get. I mean, Jeannot he's got to be a really important piece of this going forward for the Lightning. He's a tough kid. He fought Trent Frederick in a Bruins game and beat the crap out of him. So there's just a lot there. You got two world-class goaltenders. That's a hell of a series. I can't tell you who I like. From the beginning of the season, I said the Panthers, provided health. I like them better than anybody. I think I'm sticking with that. And the Bruins in Toronto, I find them both to be flawed hockey teams, but I do think that the Leafs are they're really tired. They'd love to throw the Bruins off their back, and they have a golden opportunity to do it here.
Mick, you're the man. I wish we had 4 more hours to break down every single series, but I don't. I'm up against it. You're the man. Let's talk next week.
That's my feeling about that.
Mick Elagio, Boston Hockey Now.
My screen for you went black, Pete.
Oh, sorry.
Am I carrying the show?
RinkRapMC.com. Mick Elagio, thanks.
Okay. All right. Then I'll go on and I'll say that that I think that Kucherov is one of several players that I think are worthy of consideration for the Hart Trophy. Pete alluded that he would get, if Pete had a Hart Trophy vote, that Nikita Kucherov would be his choice. He is an elite player, a generational talent at his position, and worthy of the consideration. I have a hard time going against Connor McDavid when he reinvented his game to accommodate the competition, the checking, the attention, and became more of an assist guy this year instead of a goal guy. And that's why if I had a vote, and I don't anymore, I used to vote, as I would have McDavid probably.
Okay. Mick, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're the man.
Thanks. Now.
Okay, thanks so much for everything, and we will talk next week, and we'll be a couple of games into everybody's Stanley Cup series, and we'll have a better idea of where everybody stands. Thanks so much. You are the man. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Pete.
All righty. Take a quick break here. It's the Pete Sheppard Show here live from the Naples Wealth Planning Studio on the Riptide Media Network. Next up, it's Jeff Defoe DeForest will join me for a good 20 minutes right here. Stand by. We're back after this.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself.
At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Okay, men. This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping. Cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. I know you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen.
Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Pete Sheppard Show, and the reason I chose this song coming back into this particular segment, and the great song, Don't Cry by Asia, is because people in Miami are crying because Jimmy Butler is not going to be able to go tonight, and Bam Adebayo and company are going to have to play out of their Tyler Herro, out of their respective tookuses tonight. Going to have to combine for 8,000 points, in my opinion, for the Heat to win. So I say, as we welcome in Defoe, don't cry. Don't cry.
That might be appropriate. Any number of people getting ready to zip themselves up in body bags that are wearing Heat jerseys and part of the Heat culture tonight. Pete, how are you? I have to congratulate you, Pete. I didn't realize the level of your degeneracy I was supposed to go on a show with AJ the other night, and he had some kind of technical foul up, and so we weren't able to do the show. So I thought, well, let me get to know these guys with Riptide Media a little bit better, and I sent out a text to the people whose numbers I had, and I asked them who they liked in the ball games that night. It was the Heat going against the Philadelphia 76ers in Philadelphia, and they were getting 5 points. And then, of course, you had the nightcap. And you had the Chicago Bulls going against the Atlanta Hawks, with the Bulls only laying 3.5, and the Hawks, I mean, notorious for going down big in these spots. So I get a text back from AJ, and he with certainty. I mean, when you get a text back from somebody and they tell you they absolutely love a game and it's in all caps, and then I think it came with like a meme of Michael Jordan. He loved the Bulls in this game. And I thought, wow, this guy's all in. And then Angel said that he's not really a big bettor and is not very good, which is almost like being on a sex show these days and saying that they're not a fan of any form of sexual intercourse. Because you have to be involved in betting these days to be in these spots. And then I get the text from Pete, Angel. You can appreciate this. And you had like a 19-component parlay working.
No, it was 4. It was not on the Hard Rock app here in Florida. It was on Bovada. They had one of those parlay booster things, and it was Philadelphia to win, not just win. Philadelphia, and Chicago to win, and both games go over the total. So I just did a measly $5 bet that went back over 42. It was 8 times, but nevertheless it hit. But I needed that 3-pointer defo at the end for it to go to 109, to go over 209 from 207.5. So, but I've been on the other end of that before. So congratulations to me. It was $5 wins back 42. I just kind of do it for
Nothing
fun.
wrong
But
with that.
I liked that parlay when I didn't have to worry about the spread. Just teams I thought would win the game, and the total and the Bullets game flew over by 26 points. So it was a good night.
Well, and if you were on one of those talent shows, if you were going to be true to the profession now, you'd be saying your $5,000 got you back $42,000, and I've got another special for you tonight that cannot lose.
Or next week is free.
I think we were talking about this. So I mean, the number of babes that are doing these predictions now. I mean, is it all young women that are between 20 and 25 and are stone gorgeous?
A lot of them
that are degenerate handicappers now, because I never recall seeing any of these type of people when I was in the Jamaica OTB. I was talking about this with AJ last night.
Yeah,
it was rare that you saw any woman that stood out as being that level of attractive.
Yeah, the only time you used to see people like that around the casinos or anything else was what they call coolers, right? They come and try to distract you. And seriously, they have them at all these, or they did. They try to slow you down, kind of like what Sharon Stone used to do in the casino,
Oh,
not,
she was
not just steal
brilliant in that.
money, but you try and slow down the other persons. If they're winning, you send a cooler over to try and distract that person to slow them down.
Well, the cooler in my terminology vernacular would be foo from Cambodia. Right? As soon as you see that on the name tag, you're having a nice run on the blackjack table, and then the stick man or whatever, the pit boss comes over and says, okay, guys, I want you to meet Foo from Cambodia. And you're like, well, how long have you been in the States, Foo? Just long enough to bury every gambler that ever sat down at her table. My God. That was always what represented the cooler to me. And that's no slight on Asian people. It happens to be the truth.
Rick texting in, taking Miami 105-101 like the home court. I mean, Rozier's out too. He's not playing tonight either, which is another blow for the Miami Heat. So look, I've been saying this for years, Defo, before I knew you or anybody else. I hate the word culture, the way it's thrown about unnecessarily in sports, but there are a couple teams where it does apply, and the Miami Heat, without a doubt, is one of them. What Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra have built, there is no question. There is a culture there. So can they overcome the loss of Jimmy Butler tonight? I think they can. I'm still picking the Bulls because I think it's just devastating because he looks like even if they win, he's not going to be playing for a while. I don't even know if he's going to be able to play the rest of the season.
Said several weeks.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know that it matters, because most people would size up the matchup against the Celtics and say the Heat are light years away from taking a 7-game series, which they did last year against the Boston Celtics. I don't know. I mean, it's tough to capture magic. There's a song that was recorded by Roberta Flack and maybe several others. Trying
First
to get
time
that
ever I saw your face. You're going to sing that to me?
No, because when I saw Pat Riley's face when Butler was on the ground, he looked like Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now, didn't he? That final scene, the horror.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew he was doomed. But no, trying to get that feeling again is the song I was thinking of. And it's tough to do when you had like one of these magical Cinderella type runs like the Miami Heat did last year. I don't know that you could characterize it any other way. I mean, they mowed down Milwaukee as an 8 seed after almost being eliminated by the Bulls in the play-in game. They go on, they beat the Knicks, who, they've had this intense rivalry with, but that goes back like 35 years ago. And, then they knock off the Boston Celtics.
At home. I mean,
to see that happening again
in Boston.
is very difficult. Yeah, I mean, after blowing a 3-0 lead, they cough up to 3 games and then win by a substantial margin on the road against the Boston Celtics, who a lot of people think, I don't know, is Angel making a choking gesture there? I mean, a lot of people go Pete Carroll on this thing where they go running out on the field after a missed field goal and make the choking sign. Are the Celtics inclined to choke this year, or are they just too much superior to the rest of the East?
I think Joe Mazzulla has grown leaps and bounds, and not just he went to my high school. I think he's grown leaps and bounds as a coach. And look, last year, I mean, for all a few of the flaws that he had with not calling timeouts when he should have, and this, that, and the other thing, or he should have eliminated this team or that team in one game. Look, the fact of the matter is they were down 3-0. They came back and won the next 3. Unfortunately, just ran out of gas at home in Game 7. This is a different type of team this year. I've seen every one of their games, or just about every single one of their games. They are the deepest team in the NBA. It's not even close. It's not even remotely close. And they're just too talented. They're just too talented. Are they going to sweep their way through the playoffs? Absolutely not. I'm sure there's going to be a series where it goes 6 or maybe even 7, because that's just the way the NBA is. I don't care how good you are. I look back over historic teams in my lifetime, and you see what great teams in the regular season. And then I remember the Celtics in '81 had to play, Moses Malone and the Rockets back then. The Rockets finished 4 games under 500 and made it all the way to the finals, and took 2 games from the Celtics in that year before the Celtics won in tape delayed action, by the way, for a few of those games back then in 6. So, I mean, I've seen great 76er teams and Laker teams, lose a game or 2 that they probably should have won. It's the NBA. It's going to happen. But I will be extremely disappointed when it's all said and done if the Celtics are not back in the finals this year. It would be horrific if that were the case. But
I hear a little
first.
Johnny Most coming out, in this dissertation. It's beautiful.
Godless way they do things here.
Havlicek stole the ball. I mean, tremendous. Glenn Ordway didn't have to say a word for like 20 years as a color analyst on those broadcasts.
He's coming on with me right after this, Defoe.
Get out of here, Glenn Ordway.
He's coming on after this. He just got voted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters.
Oh, beautiful! I love that guy.
You know what my favorite Johnny Most story is?
I don't, but I thought you were going to say Johnny Most was coming on. I was going to say, wow, this Angel, what a producer. Unbelievable. Bringing guys from the dead.
Well, everybody, the story is famous of him lighting his pants on fire. Glenn was doing the game with him at the time, and Johnny would smoke. He could smoke back then. Johnny could smoke, and he had those shitty slacks on that just went up in flames while we were broadcasting. It's very funny.
Yes.
But that's not even my favorite one. Is when Reunion Arena first opened up in the first year, Mavericks, which was what 1980, whatever the hell it was, 87. Whenever the Mavericks first came into the league, well before Mark Cuban owned the team. And Glenn starts doing the game. The game was only on the radio that night, so I'm listening on the radio. I'm a kid, teenager, and there's no Johnny. We're like halfway into the first quarter, no Johnny. Almost at the end of the first quarter, no Johnny. And all of a sudden, you hear the headphones going on and rumbling, and Glenn's like, "Here's literally here's Johnny. John, what happened?" Jesus. He goes, there are 10,000 criminals in the city of Dallas, and they put me up against a wall for smoking a cigarette. He didn't have his credential on him. They didn't know who he was and they detained him. And so he had to beg and plead, say, I'm the Celtics play-by-play announcer. I need to get down to the table.
Well, once he opened his mouth, you would have to recognize, of course, that it was the great late Johnny Most. But Ordway's great. We had a thing going with their show on WEEI for a while. When I was working with the great Mike Luby Lubitz, who we started out with in this venture a while back. And they did a dead-on impression of our show. Ordway and Lou Merlone and Christian Fourier. That
was after because I worked with Glenn for over a decade on the Big Show and everything else. So after I left, and they fired me twice, and they fired him twice, and brought us back twice. So in the end, he was doing a show with Lou Merlone and Christian Fourier. I wasn't part of that. That sucked. I was working there at the time too. I just wasn't part of that show anymore.
Ordway did Lubitz, and Lou Merlone did a dead-on impression of me, which was. It was great. But we used to have a lot of fun. We used to do some of those exchanges, where we were simulcasting, back in the day when you used to, the Dolphins, we would play in the Buffalo Bills. So you'd get some Buffalo radio station to simulcast and take calls from both sides and, get everybody all excited about the upcoming ball game and turn it into a verbal bloodbath, which I guess is a term I probably shouldn't use anymore. How weird is this? I don't know. I was curious to get your opinion about this. And Angel, maybe the same thing. That this whole business now, the furor that was created about the discrepancy in salaries for the WNBA players as compared to the NBA. I mean, there is no comparison, right? And this all came about because of Caitlin Clark, who, every time she is involved in any kind of a story, it blows up to wild proportions, including this business where the guy did the little heart thing. Greg Doyle was the name of the reporter.
He's an a-hole beyond belief.
At the press conference?
I hate that guy beyond belief.
Really? I used to have him on shows when he was like a .com schmink back when he first started.
He's a douchebag of a reporter, columnist. I don't know how he still has a job. He came on, at his prime of ridiculousness and arrogance and ignorance. Came on all our shows in Boston during Deflategate and everything else, and he got eviscerated to the point where I thought he was going to cry. So anything that guy talks about, he made a jackass out of himself. Angel knows this. I played the cut yesterday. He made a jackass out of himself during that press conference and then came up with some half-assed apology. That guy can go straight to hell as far as I'm concerned. I got no use for him at all as a columnist, as a reporter, or anything else he has to do in life. Get out of my face. And the only reason I played it is to humiliate him for the jackass that he is. So,
other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Not bad. The intermission was tremendous.
The other one, I didn't quite get that one. I just figured that I used to know Greg when he first started out. Got some popularity going. I think he was working for CBS Sportsline, and he used to come on our shows, and he kind of fit in, with the MO that we had, which is not to take anything overwhelmingly seriously, and yet at the same time, he had to add some insight into the sporting world. And I thought he fit the bill pretty well there. I didn't realize that he had gone, to the radical side of attention getting.
I'm not saying he didn't back on your show and all that stuff. Yeah. I'm just talking about
this was years ago, though. Many
he tried
years
to, what he tried to do and what just his whole thing. And then he wrote some stupid ass thing about Joe Mazzulla he wrote something dumb about Mazzulla. He also wrote something about what's his name at UConn, Hurley. Coach Hurley, about how he was pouting. It was real childish.
Comes up with these bizarre, interpretations.
Stupid stuff that like some fifth grader could write. Yeah. But first of all, I wanted to say congratulations. Martinez and Defoe Unscripted starts Monday.
Can you believe that? Angel, are you ready? Are we ready for this?
I sure am. I got to pay quadruple duty, but I'm ready.
Angel's on every show now, man. I love this.
Well, so and you.
This is great. It's going to be a lot of fun. No, I'm looking forward to it, Pete, because following your great morning show with it has been highly acclaimed and well received by everybody. And you've. It's not like you're not opinionated, which is a staple that I learned many years ago. Have an opinion. They're paying you to have an opinion. You certainly do, and you state it very emphatically. I kind of dig that whole thing, and the fact that you hit this 14 parlay that you sent me, which I couldn't even interpret it. It was so sick. I thought you had like also an element in there that included a bet on professional rodeo or something.
But getting back to your other point where you just talked about the WNBA, I didn't play the cut because I just can't. But you had Whoopi Goldberg. I don't know why that popped up somewhere on my feed. She was on The View yesterday spewing all that nonsense because she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about why the WNBA only gets 70. Caitlin Clark is only making $76,000 a year. Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. She forgot to bring up the fact of all the endorsements she's getting, millions of dollars more than a lot of NBA players are getting. She didn't bring up the Ice Cube story about him offering her $5 million to go play in that league. And there's a good chance that she'll be able to do both, from my understanding is. So just a lot of stuff that Whoopi in that ridiculous, horrific show, The View, always seems to leave out. I mean, who watches
miss, look, the WNBA has been bathing in red ink forever.
Yeah,
if they weren't getting the bailout, and I'm all for it. I mean, women after leaving college or whatever, high school, whatever age they want to accept them, that have this kind of talent, I believe they should have a place to play professionally in the United States and not have to schlep over to Turkey or something and start playing ball there. So I would like to see this succeed, but it hasn't. I mean, it's been a burial for anybody that's involved.
This might not save the league, but I mean, it's going to make me tune in. I would never watch a WNBA game unless I had money on it, which is rare. But
you're going to start sending it in, Pete. I can sense this.
It in, and also, the Chicago Sky with with the two players that they got. In the draft from South Carolina and LSU.
Cardoso, man. She's like the Wilt Chamberlain of women's basketball right now.
But now Reese and her on the same team. So, yes, but it's such a joke. I mean, we're talking apples and oranges. When you're talking about the WNBA or the Women's Professional Soccer League or the Women's Professional Hockey League, which there is, you can't compete. You can't start comparing yourselves to the NHL, the NBA, MLB, whatever it is. Now, you want to talk about the women's national soccer team. Maybe we're underpaid over the years, but look, it's all about sponsorships. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. That's just the way it is.
Generating interest, which Caitlin Clark should do. I mean, she's going to be asked essentially to carry this wreck of a league, and maybe she'll be able to do it. So I'm sure she'll be well compensated. But the whole flap over the salary, could easily be illustrated that Stormy Daniels got twice as much money for 30 seconds with Donald Trump as this woman was going to make for playing 40 games with the Indiana Fever, which the state hasn't seen a chucker like that since Rick Mount was at Purdue.
But they're talking about on that silly show this morning or yesterday about why ESPN didn't step up with more money to pay. They can't. That's not what it's all. They don't understand the economics of the business. They just see $76,000, and the average NBA player minimum salary first year is over $1 million. But they don't understand at all.
It's not an equal platform.
No, it's not. They don't get it. They don't get it.
All right, Pete. I mean, so you're going with the Bulls tonight. You're taking the point and a half. Both road teams with no Zion there in the Pelicans
game. I'm
game.
taking both. Yeah, and the Pelicans have destroyed Sacramento this year. 5-0 against them too.
Yes.
But no Zion tonight. I'm inclined to go with both road teams. Very, very small play. I don't feel great about it. And I hate going against Miami in situations like this, Butler or no Butler, but I'll take my chances, small plays on both the road teams tonight to see what happens. How about you?
That with an over-under in women's indoor professional lacrosse game.
Shh.
Angel, you should have seen this guy's ticket. I mean, did you send that to Angel so he could root you in?
No, I think you're exaggerating.
Well, maybe just to have a little fun.
All right, go get some rest before you get called to do another show. We'll look forward to. Can't wait to see you and Angel on Monday. Martinez and Defoe unscripted, 10 a.m. to noon, right here on the Riptide Media Network. You're the man, Defoe.
All right, we'll see you Monday. Thanks.
See you then. All right, quick break again, and then the Round Mound of Sound, Glenn Ordway is going to join me live from Phoenix, Arizona. We're see if he shed some tears the Coyotes were leaving. He's only lived out there for a couple of years, but we shall see. And we'll talk all things NBA and also get his thoughts on what's happening with the Patriots and Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick and Arthur Blank, see if the Big O has any inside information. All part of the Pete Sheppard Show live from the Naples Well Planning Studio right here on the Riptide Media Network.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much.
But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding.
Whoa!
Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Without a doubt, the greatest sports intro song of all time. Happened to be from Chicago Bulls, but that's okay. Legendary stuff. My man Glenn Ordway, the Round Mountain Sound, going to join me in just a minute or so as soon as he pops in. Lots to talk about with Big O. Recently inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters HOF Hall of Fame. A whole bunch of us are getting together to go up and watch the ceremony in the middle of June, right outside of Boston, and well-deserved that Big O, finally inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Now, if he only clicks in with us, see, I had this all set up, Angel, with this stuff, legendary music for legendary broadcaster Big O Glenn Ordway. But he's late. And I'm wondering if he's on Phoenix time. No, he knows it's Eastern time. He knows. I'm going to text him just in case. He can chime in. Or maybe he's trying to, he can't. But he's got the link, right?
Yeah, because I made sure last night that I put in last night early this morning into Eastern Standard Time. So it would be something if he's in, because if he's in Scottsdale, then we definitely would be a couple hours late.
No, but he knows. He's been on with me before on this program, but I don't think he's been on with me since he got inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Well deserved. So there's about 20 of us that are going, a couple of tables that we have set up, and it's too bad it's not going to be a roast of some sort, because that would be even better.
But you guys can make it into it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure there's stuff that's going to be going on afterwards as well. So we're really looking forward to it. Now, hopefully he'll chime in here. But hey, Angel, looking forward to you and Defo getting together. Unscripted coming up on Monday. So that show has been in the making for about 4 months, and finally we got everybody on the same page. Everybody's schedule is worked out. It's going to be awesome.
Yep. This is going to be great. I am not prepared, but we're going to make it work.
Oh, you're prepared.
Yes.
You're always prepared.
No.
Yes, you're always prepared. So
yeah, that's going to be fun. Legendary broadcaster. It's going to be a great time with Defo, because you never know what he's going to say, which is even the better part. Of course, the major adjustment will have to be with some of the guys, some of the throwback names that he will say, which even though I'm there in as far as age, but some of the stuff, it's a little bit before my time as well. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I think I have the right theme intro for it, just because of the personality that he is. So I won't reveal it until Monday. So everybody have to tune in on Monday, 10 o'clock, right after the Pete Sheppard Show. It'll be Martinez and Defo Unscripted. It's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
We'll do a crossover.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll just be one long kid. Actually, truthfully, it can happen that way, because it can just run literally right straight through, which would be the neatest thing ever, because I can go right into a break and then switch right on over. So, it would be the most different and unique crossover ever. And well, see, now I put it out there. Well, you know what? Screw it. Listen, people, you can copy paste all the hell you want to, but you got to know how to freaking do it. Put it that way. So it's going to be the greatest transition ever.
And we're going to do it every day.
That's right.
We're going to do it every day. So here's a funny Glenn story about time. And I just texted him again. Hopefully he'll link up with us. You told me he's got the link, right? So I don't doubt it. So we're in New Orleans, Super Bowl 2001. The Patriot Rams won. First day at the convention center where we're broadcasting from on Radio Row, and he's late for the show, which is unlike Glenn. He's not ever late, ever. All the years I worked with him, this might be the only time he was.
Right.
But he forgot to reset his watch because it was New Orleans, and we're off by, I think we're off by an hour down there, and he forgot. So I open up the show, and about 20 minutes later, Glenn comes strolling in with my other buddy, Fred Smirlis. They both forgot to reset their watches, and so we started. That's how they started Radio Row that week, coming in 20 minutes late.
Nice.
I was holding down the fort for a while. Absolutely amazing. Yep. There was another time, another funny story. It used to be where, the main hosts, which I filled in a lot for him and everything, we'd be in the bigger studio, and now we'd be in a smaller studio with glass separating us, like you see a lot of times in radio studios, everything else.
Yeah.
So we start the show, and I said, you could, even I could smell it. There was smoke coming out of the back of, his computer. And we just started the show. We're 5 minutes in. And I said, Glenn, you're on fire. He goes, oh, thanks, Pete. And I'm like he thinks I'm like, oh, Glenn, your hot takes, you're on fire. I go, Glenn, the computer's on fire. Now the little flame starts to come out.
Oh, no.
He goes, oh, my God. He goes, we got to go to break. We'll be right back. So I go running in there, and the engineer comes flying down the hall. Producer Andy and Brett immediately each just get something down there. We thought we might need a fire extinguisher, but engineer came down, just pulled out a bunch of plug. But the computer really just started to go up in flames right there. It was a riot. And smoke in the studio and all that stuff. We're trying to fan the flame, not let the alarms go off and all that. But stuff that happens.
Can you imagine now with the fire alarm system before it was the bell? Everybody used to remember that stuff. It would ding like crazy. Yeah. Now it's the one it's the super annoying sound. But the reason why they switch, and maybe some people know this and they don't. The reason why they switch from the bell to the flash of light and the buzzer were for the hearing impaired. And also for the visually impaired as well, because of the vibration, you are able to feel it. So could you imagine that noise going across today on regular radio? Holy moly, people's ears would be blown away.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right, you want to text the show, 727-858-6650. Thanks, everybody, for listening and watching as well on this video platform on X, Twitter. Follow me at pshep326. On Facebook, my Facebook page, and the Broad Street South Facebook and YouTube pages, Rumble, LinkedIn, Spotify, and, of course, on Sports Radio 102.9. As I said, we will have the app and the webpage up. I thought it was going to be done this week, but it looks like early next week is when it's going to happen. And then everything is going to be up there because President Brian Bruno here in Naples Wealth Planning and Rick Calhoun, CEO, want everything to be perfect. It's not going to be half-assed. It's going to be done properly. And we'll not put it up there until it's done 100% the right way. That's the only way to do this thing. And then everything will just go to that link. You'll be able to get to so many of the shows. There's going to be some financial shows on there as well that are going to be part of the Riptide Media Network. There's going to be something there for everybody. Of course, all our sports shows with days and times are all going to be up there. You just have to click on a link and you'll be all set. So Angel's a big part of it, being the executive producer really for the entire network. And you've done an amazing, amazing job with everybody. So I salute you, sir. Where the hell is Glenn? God damn it. Glenn!
He's around somewhere. Scoping around. I haven't got an email back from him, so I am assuming that he's gotten the link. So I haven't got anything in return. Usually, if like yesterday, we had one reschedule and then one for on air.
I said yesterday, my last text was talk tomorrow 9:30 a.m. EST. I'm in. Is your guy sending me the link? I said yes, it's coming. So,
yeah, and he got it because again, I see it sent from my file here, and I even put in there you're scheduled to be on at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Oh yeah, you're efficient. I know. Well, he hasn't sent me back anything yet, so I don't know. APB out for the Big O in Phoenix. Mourning the loss of the Phoenix Coyotes leaving. Not only the Phoenix Coyotes leaving as well, you've got Arizona State quarterback Jaden Rashada. Speaking of that, he's leaving too. He's leaving the Sun Devils. Wow. Now, he passed last fall 485 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. It looks like he might be headed, let's see. He was number 31 overall recruit in the 2023 class, initially signed with the Gators, Florida, but was released from his national letter of intent after a $13 million name, image, and likeness agreement fell through with the Florida Gator Collective. So he's a Pittsburgh, California native, eventually signed with Arizona State, where his father, Harlan, played D-back from 92 to 94. $13 million nil deal. $13 million nil deal. Now, did you see the state of Virginia? Did you see the bill that they passed?
For the NIL?
Yes. Well, it's going to compete directly with the NCAA. It is going to be interesting. They passed a bill. I got to find the story, but I know about it. They passed a statewide bill that allows colleges and universities, state colleges and universities, to pay athletes. I won't say student athletes because I don't care about student athletes. I care about they're going to pay athletes. That directly contradicts the NCAA rule of schools now allowing to do that. So there's going to be a big. Here we go. It's going to be a big. Battle again. I don't know which law supersedes which law. I don't know if the state laws overthrow supersede the NCAA laws. Something that Charlie Baker is going to have to address. But yeah, that's the first one. And they are hoping, if that is the case, they're hoping that other institutions follow suit, I should say. The problem is, it's still different. I mean, the schools are not going to pay $1 million, $2 million, $15 million, $13 million potential deals. They're not going to do that kind of money. I don't think they will anyway. So I don't know what their idea of paying athletes is. Maybe on some of the lesser guys, not the superstars, are going to make a decent amount of money. Something maybe they wouldn't get from boosters or nil type deals. But if everybody, all these institutions around the country start to pass that same type of bill, oh my Lord, and then guys that were playing 20 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago going, I was getting paid, just was under the table and nothing like this. There were a lot of basketball and football players, obviously, all around the country were getting paid something, but just not the millions of dollars we're talking about now. Not that I know of.
Well, yeah, okay. So you bring that on, and then, obviously tuitions will have to go up because it's not like, I know these guys, they get endorsements and stuff like that from Nike and other places if they make those kind of deals, but then that's where the NIL took place of that. So then now how much are college tuitions going up? Because what are you going to pay the average athlete? What, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 max? You're not going into six figures. You're not even going into the high five-figure numbers because if you're going to pay them, and then you also got to come up with a deal too. Like, okay, if he's just a bench player, what's he getting, $1,000 per game? So there's, boy, that's a big Pandora's box to open.
No, it absolutely is. But again, and like you said, my biggest pet peeve in all of quote unquote higher education is how they care about these kids. Every year, regardless of one institution, whether it's junior college, whether you're D1, D2, T3 school, it doesn't matter. Wasn't private school, public school. Tuition goes up every single year. All these chancellors and presidents get millions of dollars. They get free cars, high expensive cars, mansions, houses to live in, paid vacations, big time, cruises, everything else. And the kids' tuition goes up and up and up. And there's never any reduction. It's ridiculous. I don't know how most parents can do it without getting a full ride or at least a big-time partial scholarship, especially if your kid is going out of state, you're talking $200,000 for an education. Now, I think the way to do it financially is to go to JUCO for a couple of years and then transfer those credits over to, another university or college. At least you get a cheaper way. And a lot of times you can get the same type of courses as you can in regular for way less money, for much less money. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's just crazy, the tuition that goes up and up and up. And there's never, ever these presidents and chancellors go everything.
Hang on for a second. We got a call that's coming in.
Is that Glenn trying to chime?
Let's see if the connection goes well. Let's see.
All right.
Hello, you are on the air.
Pete.
Yeah.
Wolfie from Boston.
Hey, Jason. I was just talking about you.
I heard. I'm watching. I'm hoping Ordway doesn't show up late to his own ceremony.
Where the hell is he? I'm looking at my Jade. He was never late at all the years that I worked with you. And Jason was our program director, great program director at WEEI for years. Glenn was never. The only time he was late, Jay, I was telling the story. The only time he was late was that time in New Orleans, the first day we got there, because he and Freddie didn't set their watches back an hour.
That was one. But then the other time that we were in New Orleans was, I think, the regular season game, the year after they made it to the Super Bowl. And we were doing the post-game show down there, and he showed up late to the post-game show because he wanted to stay to watch the end of the game.
That's right. Oh,
Hey,
no. How about when we were coming back from Houston? This is the best one. He misses the flight. Remember he and Jesse Jackson, right? Got body search or something like that. And Glenn claims that's why he missed the flight. That's a true story.
That was a sketchy story. But hey, we got to believe him. I honestly don't remember that. I think I lost a few more brain cells in Houston than I planned to. But that was a hell of a game. So we had some fun after.
Yeah, we certainly did. So thanks. I got your email. I can't wait to get up there. Glenn being inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. And you were big time putting this together. I think you said you got a couple of big tables for all of us. We're going to be sitting close. It's too bad it wasn't a combination roast and induction ceremony, because that would have been fun. It'll be fun anyway.
I agree. And I don't know if I sent you the notice of, there's like 6 other people that are being inducted besides him. So unfortunately, It's not all going to be about him. But I got to tell you, in all seriousness, Pete, I think it's going to be so awesome to have the old crew back together again when the station was just such a monster.
Yep.
And, people have been sending me videos since I posted a few things about Glenn getting in, about all the cool things that used to happen at the station. And I'm not going to be critical of anything that's going on now. I'm just saying, when we were there and things were really rolling, it just couldn't have got any better than that. And it wasn't just about covering the teams winning. It was all the other stuff we did, the Winey Awards, the golf tournament, the events, the Jimmy Fund. I mean, I think that is such an incredible resume, and we're all privileged to be a part of it. So I'm just really psyched that you're coming back, and all these other guys and girls are coming back to celebrate with him, because we were there from day one, and it's really going to be cool.
Yeah, and Jason, you're being too much. Jason Wolf, the former program director at WEI, who was responsible, a big part, all those events you just named, they wouldn't have happened without your leadership, and particularly the work. The 2 most important days of the year that we all did was the Jimmy Fund Radio Telethon, and to watch how that grew. From the beginning until all of us left, and they still do really well with it. And I still donate every year to that as well. That was the most important 2 days of all of our lives, and you were a big part, a gigantic part of making sure how smoothly that thing ran. It was incredible.
Well, I appreciate it. It was definitely a labor of love, and I always told those people and everybody else, including our partners and sponsors, that it was a personal thing for us. This isn't just something we wanted to do to be able to support a great organization. Obviously, that was part of it. But we were over there all the time, all year round, meeting with the patients, meeting with the doctors, learning about the different progresses that they were making with research. And I think if anybody had the opportunity to see all the behind-the-scenes stuff that we saw, they would do anything and everything they could to help see through that research, because eventually, when cancer is solved, and it's going to come from the research at the Dana-Farber, because there's just no other organization in the world that is as cutting edge in trying to find cures as they are. It's unbelievable.
No question about it. And, my wife worked closely with this when she was there. She was at Mass General, and she was head of pediatric cancer research back then. So she worked very closely with everybody, as Mass General did with Dana-Farber. So she used to have up in her office outside was the healing garden up at Mass General. And it was amazing, because a lot of kids, even from Dana-Farber, would come over, and there's all these beautiful pictures and everything. And the garden outside was just tremendous. And not only that, a great view of the city. It would have been great place for a sports bar, but it was a marvelous place for those kids. Meanwhile, what was the other story I was going to ask you about? We're all going to get together on June 13th. Jason Wolf, former program director here at WEI, and there's something else.
They won't have cameras in the ballroom, because who knows what mischief we can get ourselves into.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I mean, it really was. I mean, you need all those events that you were part of and everything else. And it's really sad to see, unfortunately, the state of, most terrestrial radio. All these companies are going bankrupt. We know what Odyssey is and all that stuff. And there's a whole bunch of other ones that are $200-300 million in debt. And, I don't know if it's because it's lack of management or people trying to come in, put their thumbprint on something that's good and they wreck it. As you know, as I had a problem with somebody in the past like that. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. You've been in the business a long time. So what do you think was the reason why? Or is it just because digital radio platforms like this are just taking over?
Well, I think certainly that's part of it. I think that the growth of technology has affected terrestrial radio in a difficult way. And I think the thing that most radio companies will tell you is, well, we're still reaching 93 or 94 million listeners a week, which is obviously a very big number, but it's how much time are those listeners still spending with the content? I think that the stations that have really solid local shows, and I would still consider WEEI in that bucket. Those are stations, because of the connection that they have to the community, that are still going to be there, in my view. I think music radio has a much more difficult path going forward. Satellite has become bigger than it ever has been. So many subscribers, and of course, you can listen to music in 1,000 different places. So unless you have a big time local talent, like the few that we've had here over the years in Boston, Matt Siegel, comes to mind.
Yeah.
Those kinds of people are still going to be able to produce great content and have a great show. But a lot of these music stations now, they're doing voice tracking, they're doing production, or rather produce shows. I think it's tough to look out 5, 6, 10 years and see where they're going to be, which I think is sad and unfortunate, but it's just the nature of the industry right now.
Well, and you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but I hope you do. If you were back programming WEEI right now, what would you do to counter what Sports Hub has done, which is absolutely annihilate them in the ratings, maybe with the exception of the morning show, Greg's show doing pretty well. What would you do? What would you say? I can't imagine us getting creamed like that back in the day. I mean, if we didn't finish number one with 15 shares on AM, strictly AM, we would be pissed. But what would you do now to correct the problem at WEEI? Because every time I hear messages, they want all of us to come back, which obviously is never going to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's a loaded question, obviously. One that's difficult to answer. I couldn't, off the top of my head, just give you 6 or 7 things. I think that the biggest thing is to just focus every day on producing the best 4-hour show that you can produce. And, they do have talented people there. Unfortunately, the station has not succeeded at the level that I think some people, were hoping for, that it would expect. And it just is what it is. But, there's an effort that needs to be put in every day. And I think, from way back when we were producing the kind of content that we were producing, there was just an energy level, and there was a drive and a determination. And again, I'm not saying it's not there, but obviously, unfortunately for them, it's not resonating outside of the morning show. But that doesn't mean that it can't. And I do think that the media markets for successful stations are somewhat cyclical. EEI was on top for 20 years. The Sports Hub has now been on top for 13 or 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm in their shoes, I would not rest on my laurels. I wouldn't just sit back and say, well, we're beating these guys by 20 points, so we don't have anything to worry about, because they do. There's always something new that could come out of the woodwork and become a factor. So if I'm at EEI, I'm not really worried about the sports at this point. I'm just trying to focus on myself and trying to worry about what we can do to be the best we can be every day. And hopefully that over time will start to win some people back.
Jason, this was awesome. Thanks so much for checking in, and maybe do it again another time.
Was that a politically correct enough answer for you, Pete?
Yes, that was that was better than politically correct answer. Better. I mean, you're way more diplomatic than I would be, because I would be the kind of one to be like, fire everybody and start over again. There's a lot of good people out there who could do a better job, but that's just me not being diplomatic. What the hell do I know?
Hey, you're the host, buddy. You can say anything you want.
We're gonna have Jason back on.
Oh, yeah. That's Angel Martinez, our executive producer and new co-host of the new show coming up 10 to noon with Jeff DeForest Defoe, who he used to do a thing when Glenn was on with Christian and Lou. They would do a back and forth thing when they were in Florida from time to time that Defoe would tell me. Yeah. So, all right, Jason, I look forward to seeing you. Let's do this again another time, maybe in a couple of weeks, and get your expertise on other stuff happening broadcast. People love the behind-the-scenes stuff. I've come to realize that from a long time. They love the behind-the-scenes stuff. They just want to be part of the show. They want to know what really happened behind the scenes. So hopefully you'll join me again in a couple of weeks when we'll have a blast.
Pete, anytime, buddy. Give me a call. I'm always here for you.
Okay, thanks so much. And then we will be seeing each other back in June when Glenn gets inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame, although he did not feel the need to call in today. So, forward to, hang on.
Take care, buddy. You got it.
All right, take care. Yeah. All righty. So, Jason Wolf. So, yes, he was and what's great about Jason Angel is that he was not an overbearing program director, ever. I mean, no, nothing. And the only time we knocked heads a little bit is during contract negotiations sometimes, but that was his job. It was my agent's job at the time to get the best deal I wanted for me. But he never micromanaged. He was a great program director, put together an incredible lineup of people and allowed the shows our show was like Seinfeld. You didn't want to miss it. You just didn't want to miss it. It was very big, and it was something very special. And couldn't be happier for Glenn that he's been inducted into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. So maybe we can hang up with him next week. So that's about gonna do it for us, Angel. And thanks so much for everything you have done this week.
You're welcome.
And for the show and on this show. And I'm sure we're going to talk again Monday morning as this Riptide Media Network is growing leaps and bounds. We will be a couple days into the Stanley Cup and NBA playoffs next week. We'll recap everything on Monday when I come back on from 7 to 10 a.m. And then after that, it's going to be the debut of Angel and Defoe Unscripted right here on the Riptide Media Network. Have a great and safe weekend, everybody. Bye-bye. Talk Monday at 7. See ya.